Hey, everybody, what's going on? Welcome to another episode of Heavy Metallurgy. It's Friday. Hope you all had a great week. Episode number 188. We're getting step by step closer to the 200 mark. Thank you all for joining us. Alan, how are you?
My day sucked, but if you just want to encapsulate how my day went, getting towards the end of the day, trying to wrap things up and get out of the office, head down the hallway to go to the bathroom, just need to take a leak. And of course, they have those, lights when you walk in, it takes a couple of seconds before that lights will actually come on. So, push the door open, it's pitch black, step, splash. Then the lights come on to reveal that someone has clogged the toilet with shit. And so the entire bathroom floor it looks, that scene in Lord of the Rings where they're just going across the giant marsh.
Oh, yeah.
And if you take one wrong step, you sink like Hobbit deep.
It's with the dead eye. The eyes don't look at the lights. Yeah.
The entire bathroom looks like that, with just that little brown, niglets floating there like dead crocodiles, where someone apparently just had explosive diarrhea and clogged the toilet, and it's just flown all over the place, and I've just stepped in it. That is my entire day in a nutshell right there.
Wonderful.
Yes, it was. So that all said, I'm very glad it's over, and that now we can have some fun because we've got some guests on who we haven't seen in a very long time.
Oh, yeah.
And we've got some fun stuff to announce here at the beginning, too. So I'll sit here with my poop shoe trying to scrub it and get it clean while you tell folks about what albums are coming out this week.
Yeah, I want to apologize to everybody. I don't have slides up today. I worked a little later than I anticipated, but here is some slim pickings new stuff coming down at the end of the year. We're right at the end, and some labels are still putting out stuff, myself included. But we have Athena 19, Everflow, Part 1, Frames of Humanity on Reigning Phoenix. Couch Slut, My Life as a Woman re-release on Brutal Panda. Jethro Tull, the Jethro Tull Christmas album, the album nobody thought they needed. Fresh Snow at Christmas, Inside Out. Narnoir of Steel, 20 Years of Steel on Napalm. Neckbreaker, Within the Viscera on Nuclear Blast. No Cure, I Hope I Die Here, EP, Sharp Tone. Old Forest, Graveside on Soul Seller. Panzerchrist, Maleficum 1 on Emancipation. Powell Payne, Viola on Frontiers. I don't know who this is. Tak Matsumuto Group, TMG2 on Frontiers. Tara, Rocking Heels, live at Hellfest, Ear Music. Volcandra, Live Demise on Napalm. And Until I Wake, Renovate on Fearless. Oh, one more. Will Haven, No Stars to Guide Me, 30 years of Will Haven on Minus Head. Bunch of bands I've never heard of or stuff I just don't care. But, hey, we had to inform you, and inform you we did, and that is our job here. And, yeah, that's it. Did you have something else before we brought our guests on that you wanted to throw out there?
I do. Yes, my day may have been filled with poop, but I'm going to, it's the holiday season. We're rocking the Pink Nightmare shirt, and I've got stocking stuffers to give away. So folks may remember a few weeks ago, our buddies over at Radical Research put out the second issue of their zine that's called Deserts of Hex. Hunter Ginn kind of heads this project up. Several folks in the Radical Research community help contribute to it. Really nice, pretty thick, kind of, it's a square format, so kind of a different size.
Yeah.
But, very thoughtful, very detailed articles in it. This is the second issue. It's got a long interview with Incantation, a big write-up on the Deathspell Omega catalog, other stuff. They cover other things, too. It's not all strictly music. There's a thing on here, for example, the lead story is the dude who did Twin Peaks, about David Lynch and the music with some of his productions and such. So really interesting stuff. And I got 2 extra copies, and I am going to give them away. So if you would like a free copy of Deserts of Hex number 2, all you have to do is very simple. Just leave a comment on this video. Has to be a comment, not something in the live chat. But yeah, after the stream is done, just leave a comment down below telling us what your favorite album from the year 2002 is. Right? Then before next week's show, we will pick 2 winners at random. Can't be anybody who contributes to Heavy Metallurgy. There's no nepotism here. And yeah, I'll send these out to you. I may wait until right after the holiday to send them just because the mail is absolute madness right now. But yeah, I'll ship them anywhere in the world. So anywhere if the US will ship a mail to you, you are welcome to enter. Just leave a comment down below on this video with your favorite heavy metal album from 2002, and you'll have a chance to win one of 2 copies of Deserts of Hex #2. I've read a lot of the articles in it. I have a 3rd copy for myself. Really good stuff, very well written, as you would expect from Hunter and Jeff and the other contributors who help out with it. They're all very smart people who dive really, really deep on these bands. So there you go. Get yourself a stocking stuffer. Just leave a comment down below and tell us the favorite album, and that will make you eligible to win.
Awesome. Sounds great. And without further ado, we should probably get our guests in here.
We should.
The return of Pat from Ground Zero Salem. What's going on, Pat? Good to see you.
Hello, everyone. How you doing? I'm well.
Good. Missed you. How you been?
Busy. Very busy. Thus me not updating or uploading anything in months.
Life happens.
Yep. Life has been happening. Those who follow me on social media may have heard I am moving back up north. So the channel name might be accurate once again. We are looking for homes in Salem and the North Shore. Sorry, Jason, of Massachusetts, or of Massachusetts, north of Boston. So that's exciting. I've been in the process of packing. I'm not going to bother trying to turn my camera around because I can't reach it. But everything's packed up behind me. We're leaving like at the end of the month. So we're scrambling to get out of here. I already have a new job situation worked out because I work in healthcare and they're desperate. So they're like, when can you come back? That's about it. Listening, it got cold and did the real basic stereotypical thing of deep diving into a lot of doom, which, happens. That happens. So that's what I've been jamming most of the time lately. Maybe some proto-punk and stuff like MC5 and the Stooges. I've been feeling early Alice Cooper, the Alice Cooper band, not the guy, that kind of stuff. Mm-hmm. So maybe I'll grace the internet with a collection update or something soon. I have a lot more free time. I'm done with work for the rest of the month, so I'm hoping to at least get a couple of videos up, possibly a 2024 kind of deal, maybe. Although I think I already packed up half the stuff that's new. So we'll see. But TLDR, long story long, I'm well. I hope you guys are well too.
Yeah, we're doing very well. And yeah, really glad to have you back on the show. We've talked to Pat on and off for the last couple of months about having him come on, but yeah, he's been super busy, but we appreciate you taking the time to hang out with us tonight.
Thank you.
Well, this is a rare treat, everybody. We got to get this guy back on. Jason Hook from Let's Get Into It. What's going on, Jason?
Hi.
Hey, mister.
Just back with my bad camera and my squat-looking background. It's just still living the dream.
There's a prototype behind there, everybody. The world will see soon enough. The unveiling. Maybe we'll have him back for the unveiling.
Yeah.
Yep. So what's been going on, Jason? Obviously, Get Into It is still pushing up daisies, but
yeah.
What have you been up to?
I'm just working. Being my son is now 5, which is really, really weird. I still buy records like a complete, absolute maniac. It's just we don't time dad union stuff. I'm now a sergeant of arms for the 4-state region, so I'm constantly doing meetings and all that kind of stuff. And when I have free time, believe it, we're not home. We've been doing a lot of just weekend day trip type stuff where usually just revolves around me wanting to go somewhere and buy stuff, and my wife and child come along.
Right on. Well, it sure is good to see you. Appreciate you dusting everything off to come back visit for a while.
It took me forever to find this stuff in my non-organized collection, but I did.
To those who don't know Jason, he is a enthusiast of buying stuff, archiving music, and he doesn't alphabetize his collection. Just saying. They're putting it out there. We all thought that punks could read, but
It's the thrill, man. You pick up a stack of records and you just go, "Oh, holy shit, I own this."
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Jason, as long as you don't tell me that you're categorizing them based on the vibes, we're cool. Because if I hear one more person say the word vibes this week, I'm going to just rage at something.
You're a college professor, so
Yeah.
you probably hear that way too much. I'm assuming.
Chill vibes, bro.
there we go.
Yep, Jen's
Get on him,
strolling.
Jen. Get on him,
Jen's
Jen.
strolling.
Yeah.
You could arrange them autobiographically, a la High Fidelity.
High
there.
fidelity. Yeah.
They
Yeah.
pretty
Oh my
much
God.
are. They
This
pretty much are.
Can I rant for a second about something that got posted in a video today?
It's your party. You can say whatever you want.
Okay, you're giving me
let's give you
flashbacks to
Give the
9
floor.
hours
There we
ago.
go.
All right, over on Banger TV today, Sarah posted a video about some of her favorite albums from 2024. Everyone's doing that right now. That's fine, and she's of course one of their best video makers. It's a good list of mostly kind of traditional stuff, but she's got some doom bands and stuff in there. But there's this weird disclaimer at the start of her video where she says, I didn't want to do this list chronologically. And I'm thinking, but you're doing a list of 2024 albums, so they're all from the same time period. Why are you saying you don't want to do it chronologically? Like, you're not going to list them from like January to December? But then she goes on and says like, yeah, I'm not really into ranking albums. Like, what's my favorite anymore? Just kind of going on the vibes. I'm just like, but ranking your albums from favorite to least favorite isn't ranking them chronologically. Why are you using the word chronologically this way? That doesn't make it. First, you're using the word vibes, which already is making my blood pressure go up. And second, you're completely using the word chronologically all wrong. That's not chronologic. You're just ranking them like top 10 favorites or whatever. Chronologically means in order they occurred temporally, first to most, like oldest to youngest. So yeah, it kind of ruined the whole video. I was like sitting there, I had 20 minutes to eat a shitty little peanut butter and jelly sandwich 3 hours before I stepped in a giant puddle of poop. And I couldn't even get through a 20-minute video with this sandwich. I just stopped the video at that point because it kind of broke my brain that she used the word chronologically wrong. So yeah, like I said, not my day.
Is chronologically the new literally? Is that what's going to be happening now?
There's a possibility. There's a very non-zero possibility. That's what's happening.
Or
It's
low
the,
key.
ground non-zero Salem possibility.
Yeah. Or low key. Low key, I really like this record.
Yeah. Yeah.
NGL.
To end on a happy note, her video is very good. She's got a lot of cool stuff covered in it for sure. You just skip there's like 30 seconds from 2 minutes to 2:30. Just skip that little 30-second disclaimer that was obviously tacked into the video in editing. Just jump over that and it's all sunshine and rainbows. If you watch that 30 seconds, you might know my pain. You might not. Maybe it's just me.
Would you say you were chrono triggered by the whole thing?
No, because that wouldn't make any sense.
I just been really into turn-based RPGs this year. All right, sorry.
Yeah, I am taking priority and saying that she is just using the word wrong, and it's just such a weird word. I mean, I've never heard anyone refer to like their top 10 of the year list as chronologic. So it just was such a weird thing. I literally played it back like 3 times. Like, am I hearing it wrong? Is she saying something else? Did I miss a syllable in there?
It's like she just learned a new big word and thought she'd throw it in there to impress people. I don't know.
She just was probably just excited to get on with stuff, and just kind of pulled it out of thin air.
Yeah, it's a gaffe. People have
Yeah, it's not the end of the world. It was just one of those little things that just completely threw me for a loop. And then we were talking about how to organize things, and it brought back all the trauma. Thanks, guys.
I was gonna say, it sounds like this poop fiasco this morning really threw off your vibes for the day. Maybe.
Oh no, this was 3 hours before the thing, and just for that, there's a button here I can hit on you, Mister. Yeah. Let's hear your funny joke now, Mister Muted.
I have power to unmute.
What was that? I couldn't hear you.
Alan, if you just want to feel slightly better as a custodial technician myself, we can probably do a full stream of poop stories.
I'm sure we could. The one today, was just it was just the perfect little microcosm of how the entire day had gone, from start to finish. that summed it up. That was the period at the end of the week.
I had a buddy that lived up here. We used to have a Borders up here, but Borders Books and Music, and
Yep.
someone
R.I.P.
called him to the bathroom for an emergency. He walked in there, and someone had gone number 2 and decided to paint the entirety of the bathroom with what they could find and all over the walls. And
Yeah.
he was raging pissed. What is wrong with humanity? It's like why we are where we are right now.
Hey,
There's a lot wrong. with
Yeah,
humanity.
I had a friend once who, they, the manager had gone into the bathroom at, I forget if it was at Big Lots or Target or whatever, and she's like, "You have to go clean the bathroom." The guy went in there and looked. Somehow, somebody had gotten the crap onto the ceiling
Ooh,
above
nice
the
one.
toilet. So he kind of looked around, looked up, walked back. He's like, "I ain't cleaning that." The manager's like, "Yes, you are." He's like, "No, I'm not. I am going back and doing the work I'm actually supposed to be doing. Fire me if you want to, but I ain't dealing with that." He walked onto the back room. The guy, his buddy's like, "Dude, he's probably going to fire." He's like, "I don't care. I will take the pink slip before I go in there and scrub somebody else's shit off the ceiling." And nothing happened. The boss found somebody else to do it, I guess, or did it himself. Wow, we're off to a great start.
I've covered a shift as a custodian at a high school, so I mean I'm not going to go farther than that. But it was I grew up that day.
Yeah.
Jason Hook lost his innocence.
Yeah. There was a twinkle, and at the end of the shift, it was just fucking dull.
Gone. Yeah, lost that twinkle, that youthful twinkle forever. Yeah.
I
And
work
yes,
in a
Tony,
hospital.
now
I'm not going to say anything else.
Yeah.
Tony is right, but now we all get to hang out together and have fun talking about stuff that isn't crap. So, way to find the silver lining, Tony. I like your enthusiasm. We're all good now.
Barium
Just a
enema.
double extra.
That's all I'm gonna say.
Well, hell. We decided to run with an easy topic, and the years are always fun. And look back and kind of take a little musical snapshot of where we were in 2002. We'll start with you, Pat. What were you doing in 2002?
Okay, so 2002 was a weird transitionary year for me, life-wise, music taste-wise, all kinds of shit. I was living in Maine for like a year and a half. I was living in Boston previous to that. Big city life was kind of getting to me, so I backpacked in Europe for like 6 months, mostly in Ireland, and then I ended up moving to Maine, where the plan was me and my friend Ben were going to buy land and like build a apocalyptic fortress on it. We were shooting very high. We were young, but maybe not that, but definitely looking into buying land and stuff. And it didn't pan out. And at that time, I was getting into a lot of the newer hardcore that was coming out and being less into death metal and grind and stuff. So it was sort of a transition there. There are all these bands coming out like Nine Shocks Terror, Tragedy was just starting, Tear It Up, kind of this rebirth of like fast hardcore, which was really exciting because I missed out on that time in the 80s. And most of the hardcore I grew up getting into was like slower, moshier, chuggier hardcore, which I like now, but at the time I got burnt out on pretty quickly. So I was listening to like a lot of the stuff that was coming out on Relapse, but I was also checking out like a lot of underground type of shit. That's where I was at the time. So
Isn't it funny when you're younger? When you're young, it's called a fort. When you get a little bit older, it's called a fortress.
yeah.
Just interesting.
Yeah, like my friend was like, "We're gonna get like make it out of like wrecked cars welded together." I'm like, "Oh, okay, man. Like, what? Let's like work on maybe just buying the land first." And
That's a lot.
One of the guys ended up going to jail, so it's I was like, I'm gonna move back to Syracuse.
Well, if you build it, maybe Wendy O. Williams would have showed up. You never
Yeah,
know.
right. Just fired a rocket into a TV on our property or whatever.
Right. All right. Well, Jason, what were you going to say, Alan? You're muted. Alan, you're muted.
Too much fun. I was going to say, yeah, Mel Gibson could have made a cameo over at Pat's place.
Yeah.
drove the school bus for everybody.
What were you doing in 2001, Jason?
2001 I graduated high school. And then 2002 was all my friends, my friends went to college in September, and I worked at a awesome regional pizza chain called Papagino's.
Hell yeah.
And I lived in my parents' basement. I did not have a driver's license.
Hell
and
yeah.
I just fucking hung out. And I went and saw bands play all the time. I couch surfed at friends. It was just a really awesome time because I didn't really give a shit about anything except hanging out and having fun as much as I could. And I mean, now it scares the shit out of me how I lived that way because I literally had no money. I was cashing in pennies at the coin star to get like $10 to go see a punk band on a Friday night. But it was cool. It was an awesome time. It was, I didn't meet my wife until the next year. So I just literally just bought records and hung out and saw as many bands as I physically could. I was probably 19, 20, because I'm born in 82. So.
Right on. Alan.
Let's see, 2002 for me, I was in grad school. So a lot of time just in the lab grinding through research stuff. Yeah, not a lot of things really stand out about that year because of that. It was just a lot of lab work and research stuff. In terms of heavy metal, it was a slightly odd period, and I think we'll see that with some of the stuff that gets picked tonight. In terms of what was popular, you were kind of at the tail end of the new metal, scene, which isn't, the kind of stuff a lot of us are into. Some viewers probably listened to a lot of that stuff, especially when they were younger. That may have been their gateway. But for us, it was a scene that maybe we're just too old to have much interest in. And yeah, just, looking through the stuff that came out in 2002, it does feel, there's kind of a transitional period. You've got, a few old bands still hanging around doing the same thing. Your death metal and even the black metal scenes to some degree feel like they're in kind of a weird lull around this time. You don't quite have anything like metalcore starting up just yet. Mm-hmm. And you've got a new wave of bands that would become, bigger and bigger. But in 2002, they were kind of just getting their feet under them. They're having like maybe their first big release, or they're one album away from the big release. And at the same time, you also have a couple of bands that had been very big names just a few years earlier who were now quickly leaving, heavy metal orbit completely, or just, changing their sound so much that the old fan base was not interested. But they were bringing on board, a much bigger, wider fan base. They were becoming more popular, but with a different sound that didn't appeal to their older fans. So yeah, it's a really, strange time. And this was a great year to have, Pat and Jason join us with, because there's also a lot going on, in, hardcore and, metal bands picking up some hardcore influence, hardcore bands picking up some metal influence. So those scenes were also, I feel like kind of going through a bit of a transition in 2002. So yeah, it's an interesting year with kind of a strange set of things coming out. But we'll see what everybody picks in a little bit. Marty, what were you doing in 2002?
I don't even remember where things are all a little bit fuzzy when you get past 2000. I was divorced and in a new place and just drinking a lot.
You were done with Maniacs by 2002, correct?
I had been. I left when Jeff Wagner left, but then I gave it a while and then popped in and did some reviews when Liz took over after Jeff.
Okay.
I don't know when that falls in in the whole timeline, but
I feel like if you hadn't left, you were kind of, phasing out by that time. So it was kind of the end of your run there.
Yeah. But one thing that happened in 2002, my label, Bind and Recordings, put out our first release, is Shroud of Despondency for Eternity Brings No Hope. Mm-hmm. And funny thing, instead of eternity, it's eternity because my fat finger hit the M instead of the N, and it's a funny font, so you couldn't tell until after the fact. So there's that. But yeah, this is certainly not Shroud's best material, but you got to start somewhere, and it was our first release, so there it is. If you see it somewhere, it's probably cheap. Tread with caution. Listen to it before you buy it. That's all I'm going to say there. But yeah, as far as that, and my wife now was about to head back to Traverse City from where she was at, and yeah, I don't know what year that was either. I'm really horrible with dates. I'm just kind of one of those guys that just every day kind of feels the same. You just kind of float through life with blinders on, and before you know it, your kid's going on 15 years old, and you're crying over the new Cure record with all the lyrics.
That record's so good.
Oh my God, dude.
It's
the
so
last
good.
song in particular.
Yep,
Holy
yep.
shit balls.
Oh,
Yeah.
I'm not crying. You're crying.
Yeah.
Speaking of wives, I'm going to run downstairs real quick. Amanda just got back from being gone to the West Coast for 5 days. I just want to say hello.
Absolutely.
And
We'll start rolling with
grab a fake beer.
Jason, and we'll get you worked in when you come back.
All right, BRB.
Right on. All right, Mr. Hook, why don't we get this the festivities going? There's no more poop marshes to discuss, to traverse. There's no more poop on the ceiling.
There always is, though.
There always will be. Hey, 102 people. Cheers, everybody, for joining us. Remember this guy? Look at this guy.
Hi. So I'm going to start this off with a demo. So this is cut the shit demo. They're a Boston hardcore band. There's links to this band that are going to go through probably some other stuff I pull out tonight, because 2002 was a huge year. I previously mentioned hardcore went through like a metal-ish tough guy, baggy pants, wood bead run for a while, and then it got swoopy haired and tight jeans. And then this band here kind of was this new wave of bands that came out that were just like, we're done with fucking this. We just want to play straightforward 3-chord, like dumb as fuck songs for you can do like stage dives and all that kind of stuff. So this is 5 songs. I believe it's 6 minutes. The sticker on here these are all over the city of Boston in every venue, and it was kind of like a it was a little like, you know, shot across, you know, the bridge here where it said, "Hey Boston hardcore, it's time to cut the shit." So my friend Andrew was in this band. He's in another band that we're going to talk about tonight, but you got it's just super basic printout, got lyrics, got a, you know, thanks busts open into the first song on here called "Get Rowdy." That's, you know, that's the chorus with the good giddy up mosh part in it. These guys would go on to put out, I think, 2 7-inches, a split, an LP, and a 10-inch. And when that LP came out, I mean, I'm sure most of the people who aren't, or if you're in here and you're not big, you know, if you're, you know, never dabbled in the punk and hardcore, was huge. Like, they toured the whole country, Europe, on that one LP. It was like, at the time it came out, it was everyone's top 10, top 1 or 2 record of the year. A lot of bands started to like kind of ape the style a little bit here, with just like really, really, really like just all the bullshit gone, stripped down. Dudes aren't fashion. It's hard to explain if you weren't there, but like a lot of like fashion came into hardcore. People were wearing like $100 diesel jeans and track jackets, and you had to be cool. And I was a fat kid who liked punk, so, you know, I was around already for, you know, probably 5 or 6 years when I first started going to shows. And then all of a sudden people are asking me who I am. And it's kind of like that whole thing with me where it's like, I'm a fucking hardcore kid, you know, you know what I mean? But this is the demo. It's awesome. It has a cool hotmail.com, burn the dance clubs at hotmail.com, because that was another shot besides Boston hardcore. It's time to cut the shit. A member of a band who I love started like a dance, like a nightclub night, which became a thing where it was like, oh, I'm not into this, but like, you know, all the hardcore kids would go there, and cocaine appeared, and it just became, it kind of was a whole scene changer. And these guys were like, no, fuck you, we're hardcore kids, we skateboard, we're gonna play 3-chord songs, you're gonna stage dive and have a wicked fun time. But that's the Cut the Shit demo. This cover is controversial. As a professional skateboarder who, like, shortly after this came out, said some really not cool shit in an interview, and they had to like kind of cancel this. But yeah, the Cut the Shit demo, it rules. It's on YouTube. It's literally about 4 or 5 minutes. It'll just blow your mind. And then buy the LP. I believe I mentioned that I'm on the thank you list too, if you want to see proof that I actually hung out.
Right on. Good start. And Alan.
All right. I'll just start with what ended up being one of the really big releases that year. I didn't check it out at first. It took me a while to give this one a chance. It's the background on the thumbnail. Agaloc's second album, The Mantle. This one, again, I think it kind of represents what metal was going through in 2002. That you definitely had things, kind of eking out in different directions. So it's like people were, tired of new metal. You'd already had, sort of a glut of power metal bands rush back in, and there were some good ones. Folks have mentioned that. William mentioned it in the chat a minute ago, and yep, we'll definitely be checking out some of the power metal releases from the year. Yeah, but in the extreme metal side of things, people were looking for different sounds and different styles, and I think Agalac was very much in the right place at the right time to capitalize on their really, really cool music. The album, I saw people talking about it. It just didn't register with me, just in part because, the cover, I'm like, okay, it's a big gray elk, moose, reindeer, some kind of large artiodactyl. Okay, the cover just didn't speak to me. It didn't tell me anything about what the album's going to sound like, the band name, the album title. I'm just not getting anything here. I don't know. The song titles are kind of long, so it's like, is it going to be pretentious sounding? What is it? You were but a ghost in my arms. I'm like, is this just going to be another Opeth album? Because I knew by this point that Opeth wasn't my band. But no, finally did give it a chance. And yeah, it actually is, very, very good. It lives up to the hype quite a bit. The band was already kind of on the map with the previous album, but I think the Mantle is where you couldn't get away from this album, even with my head again buried in a chemistry lab 4 or 5 days a week. This still permeated that. Yeah, sooner or later I'll have to check it out, and I did. And it has earned its status for sure. It's held up extremely well over time. The band's still well regarded, and they're back together and getting a very warm reception as they head out, tour some places. They toured Australia a couple of months ago for the first time, and yeah, by all accounts, they sound great, and folks are really enjoying having them back active on the scene.
They just announced a tour with Emperor.
Oh, nice. I had not heard that. That's awesome.
North America, they're playing. Emperor's playing Nightside Eclipse. It's Wayfarer.
That'll work.
Wolves in the Throne Room, Agaloc, and Emperor. There's one other band I can't remember. But
okay, well, while you talk, I want to look up and see if that's anywhere within 100 miles of me.
I think it's West Coast. It's West Coast, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
What is it?
It's East Coast too.
Oh, is it really?
Is
okay.
it?
Yeah, well, tickets are there. I saw a big thing. Tickets are already ridiculous, I guess, for it.
Yeah, that could be a problem too. I'm going to look it up out of curiosity because that's a really, really killer lineup. It's rare you have 4 bands on a bill, and I would actually pay to see all of them.
Yeah.
So I'll check it out. But yeah, Agalac's The Mantle, one of the defining albums in heavy metal for 2002. So yep, Marty, let me go check out the tour schedule while you show us your first album.
We're gonna slide Pat into that.
Oh yeah,
situation.
Pat's
All right.
Absolutely.
I was just catching up with the chat. Jason, you showed a Cut the Shit record.
I showed the demo.
The demo? Okay.
Yeah.
I got almost in a fist fight with a mall cop for wearing a Cut the Shit shirt at Carousel Mall in Syracuse, New York. Because it was hard for me to be intimidated by the guy because he was shorter than me, and I'm like 5'6". I called him Junior, and then I yelled at him, and I was like, this was when I was still straight edge, so I was like constantly angry. I was like, "You want me to turn it inside out?" And I like took it off like in the middle of the hall, in the middle of the mall, and I did what he asked. I just was an asshole about it. In the middle of the mall, turned it inside. My ex-girlfriend was there with me, like turning red with embarrassment. It was really something. Anyways, that's what I think of when I think of Cut the Shit.
Well, I was explaining the whole like Boston scene and how they did like, hey, Boston hardcore, it's time to cut the shit, and the Burn the Dance Club email, how that was all like kind of shots across.
Oh yeah, with like the pill and all that. And
the
whole Gibby scene. Yeah. Yep. I remember hating that stuff too. All right, so this was probably like the last death metal album I got into for like a pretty extended period of time, and it's the self-titled Engorged CD. Came out on Necropolis and Death Vomit 2002. I love that it's like a a mosh pit of like metal mascots. You got like the Knot Man there, and Gigi Allen's on the back, like his zombie and stuff. And it's great, like Pacific Northwest death metal stuff. Not taking itself too seriously, but somehow isn't like cringy. You know, it's like that whole scene that came out of Razorback Records. You know, kind of these guys walked so Ghoul could run, that kind of thing. Like delicious combination of classic thrash metal and like carcass worship. You probably know the style. It's great. It's a really good example of that kind of death metal. It's excellent. That's my pick.
Oops. All right. Well, it's kind of interesting going through, you know, doing a little bit of research tonight, figure out what I was going to pick. Yeah, there's some good death metal albums that came out. But death metal's kind of on the ropes, man. I mean, is it dead and gone?
Sure.
It isn't. It's still here. There's some good stuff being put out, but just nothing really jumped off the page much I had to show, although I did pick a couple. But
You're really right, Marty. We're still kind of in that zone where death metal hadn't fully rebounded at this point. That new wave of death metal bands that would kind of revive the old school stuff hadn't quite, hit the scene yet. So it was kind of hard finding some. There are some. We're going to talk about them, but
that Razorback stuff I think was a really strong example of like how some of it was still good, and then there was all the brutal stuff that was blowing up at the time.
Oh yeah,
a couple of which I have a couple examples of, like I think outliers that are actually pretty decent, but I don't want to get ahead of myself.
But it's funny, I started off that way, but the first thing I'm going to show has nothing to do with death metal. But man, this album so good. Nordland 1 by Bathory. And this is actually the first release that there was a hype sticker on this saying it was the only digipack that Black Market ever put out. And I think ended up being the only one they ever put out. So, of course, being collector scum, I had to have, both the jewel case and the just so stupid, and the digipack. So dumb. There's nothing different other than the packaging. But so Nordland. And I love the Viking era of Bathory, just like anybody else does, but I'm of the mind that once Blood on Ice and both the Nordland records are better than Hammerheart, and that I love Hammerheart, but these are just better songwriting, better production, better singing. His voice got better, a little marginally better, and it's just exciting to hear Quorthon getting it right. And especially the line of albums he had that came before this. The Destroyer of Worlds was good, half good. You had Octagon, Requiem. Requiem is a decent thrash record that sounds like crap. Octagon's just garbage. I don't know what the hell he was. Blows. I don't know what he was thinking there. But,
I revisited that recently just to refresh myself. Like, did it really sound that bad? It really does.
It does.
Yeah. It's not. It did not age, or it wasn't one of those
the
like,
way you were
well, in
at
hindsight, I can see what he's doing. It's like, no, I can't.
The way you were phrasing that, I thought you were going to say that it isn't as that bad. I'm like, man, you drank some of the poop water and you've got brain worms now.
Oh no, it is every bit as bad as everybody recalls. It never came around.
I need to revisit the Quorthon called Quorthon record album.
There's a couple decent songs on that shit. It's not all bad.
Okay, I remember.
I don't have them, but the few songs I've heard, I'm like, oh, that's a decent song. But yeah, it's not Bathory. But yeah, I'm a big fanboy of this whole era for sure, and would have been cool to hear what he was gonna go. I know he was working on the record called The Vikings or something when he died. So who knows what it could have been? Probably more of that because he finally got it right. But who knows? But yeah, 2002, Nordland 1. I was blown away by how good that record was. Completely blown away. All right, Mr. Hook.
Well, Marty, you don't have to feel bad about owning 2 copies of the same CD, because the next one, here's the original press from 2002, the No Warning Ill Blood LP. Here is the 20th anniversary press that has a silver thing on it.
Oh, lenticular.
Hey, ready? Here's a cassette tape.
Nice.
I also have it on CD. And I have a...
Why didn't you pull that one? Couldn't find it?
I don't know where that thing is probably in the trunk in the basement.
Or probably in the end section of your... Oh, wait, there is no end section.
And I actually have a test press that I won of this, too. That's in a box that's underneath a bunch of stuff. But anyway, so No Warning, Canadian hardcore band, kind of doing a New York style, Pat, you would say. I mean, that's
Absolutely, yeah.
And it is bouncy. It is
It's
moshy.
almost like straight Madball worship, really.
Yes, and it is fucking awesome. Straight the
great.
first song right away. They got Porter from Floor Punched with the bust, and then the fucking breakdown comes in, dude. And this blew up when it came out.
Your wife is impressed with how many versions of this you have. She loves to hear that.
She knows. They had a 7-inch before this, which was all right. They had a demo which is not to be talked about.
Oh yeah, well, it wasn't under that name.
Yeah. There's some questionable politics on it, and then they put out a record after this, or attempted to put out like a new metal-ish record that people are torn on. Some people will back it up, some people will spit on it.
I've heard that it's not really even that new metal and that it's okay, but I've never actually listened to it.
Well, it was like produced by like the dude from like Linkin Park or something. They were trying to make it.
You should also mention that Ben Cook was a child celebrity as well.
He was a child. He was a child actor
from Canada, following in the footsteps of Drake and Alanis Morissette.
yeah. Also I don't know what it was like in the metal scene at the time, but in 2002, the hardcore message board culture was huge. And Ben Cook, the singer of this band, was an absolute legend for stories of debauchery and liked and or hated from multiple people. Also, 22 years ago, having this version right here would give me big time points, but I don't think anyone. I don't know. I haven't looked on Discogs lately, but this is like the super rare, quote unquote. I believe it's supposed to be peanut butter and jelly, but it was also called blood and shit.
All comes back to shit,
yes,
Alan.
Yeah. But
peanut butter, jelly, and shit. The story of my day.
Yeah. But this shit was like, this blew up. It was part of a. It kind of stinks because it was part of a pre-order package with another band from Minnesota called Holding On, which also put out a really good record. But this was so monumental that it just kind of.
Yeah, I mean, it was the beginning of like people other than people from Europe, which is a whole other kettle of fish entirely. But people in America like worshiping a certain era of New York hardcore.
Yeah.
Up until No Warning, like mostly it was just New York bands that sounded like that. Like,
yeah.
There was a few, I mean, some bands from Baltimore and stuff like that, but they were like kind of like local bands. And that became the time that people fetishized New York hardcore and started knowing who people from the scene were that weren't really even in bands. They're like, oh yeah, that one guy that used to mosh at shows that I saw in CBGB's videos. Like the whole mythology of New York hardcore, I think, started to happen around that time, and that record had a lot to do with it.
Yeah, and then there was
whole nerd shit over that stuff.
Yeah, and then there was like the live shows at like the big fests that were going on back then, where they came out and like people would just be stage diving the whole time and drinking the beer on the stage and puking on there. Just like there was just so many things about the band that just blew up at the time with the Bridge 9 board. I saw someone mention they were on the Bridge 9 board. But yeah, that's this is No Warning's Ill Blood. Go check it out. New York hardcore, sing along, breakdown, bounce. Just great stuff. I'm gonna listen to this tomorrow at work.
Everybody, flood Jason Hook's Facebook page with demands for Get Into It to come back, because just saying.
Yeah. Or hit me up over on the Instagram. It's SSP Crew. I'll plug
there you
myself.
Go. SSP Crew.
South Shore Punk Crew.
All right, Pat.
Oh, is it back to me already? Okay.
Yep.
High on Fire, Surrounded by Thieves.
Mm-hmm.
I've been on a big tear with Doom, like I said in the intro, and I remember when this came out, but I hadn't really listened to it in a long time. And earlier I was, puttering around the house and acclimating myself with certain records. And this is actually a lot slower than I remember it. I seem to remember a lot of early High on Fire as being like this kind of like fist pumping, almost Motorhead pace. And that starts, I think, with the one after this, Blessed Black Wings.
Yeah.
But this is like a lumbering mid-paced affair, and it's great. It's super good. And it's their second record, their first one on Relapse. The very first one was Art of Self-Defense, which came out on Man's Ruin, I want to say.
I love that's the
it's
only one
great.
whenever I want to listen to that band, that album is so good. It's so good.
Oh yeah.
I love the feel and flow of that record. It's just punishing.
The first 3 are great, but I mean, I pick up some of I just got their brand new one, and I think that's awesome too. Something about their whole aesthetic, their music, their lyrics, Matt Pike's vision. I always liked how it was like a 1970s like heavy metal magazine, Ralph Bakshi, Boris Vallejo, Frank Frazetta kind of thing on all their records, which is very appealing to me. And I mean, just thick, heavy riffage. It's really interesting how Sleep parted ways and split into Ohm and these guys. You know, you can hear the DNA parting, like from like Tranquil and Hypnotic to like this guy on the cover, like in a band, basically. But yeah, I mean, I think this record's great. Now I went down the whole thing for Relapse. You'll see a lot of this in my pile of like what they were doing, how they were transitioning out of this like pure death and grind extreme label to like, hey, Neurosis, Mastodon, High on Fire, all that kind of stuff. So it was interesting to revisit that. And I remember also at my old apartment in Maine having like my first internet connection, living independently with my roommates. And it was one of the first websites that I visited where you could just sample stuff. Like they had like MP3s playing when you opened the banners and all that kind of stuff, and being like blown away by that. But yeah, a lot of happy memories of this. I need to spin it more now that I've cracked it out for this little stream here.
Yeah, that's a good pick, Pat. I filled in for Marty on an album club episode, I guess sometime earlier this year, and got to check that out for the first time. And it is a really good album. I'd heard some of their other albums and never connected with them, but I do like that one. So yeah, really good pick.
All right, Alan.
All right, let's see. Well, some folks were definitely pushing back against the idea that there was not a lot of good death metal in 2002.
Oh, that's fine, because there was a lot of stuff.
There was. You just kind of have to pick and choose. It's not like
brutal
death
stuff.
metal wasn't, the monster it had been, 10 years earlier.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's some good ones, and let's go ahead and show one of them now. You have the Chasm.
Shit, I totally forgot about that
Chasm.
one.
And I got to get the title right. Conjuration of the Spectral Empire. Most folks who watch probably are familiar with this band, but excellent kind of, again, death metal leaning in that sort of dark, doomy, cavernous kind of vein, sort of incantation influenced, which makes sense, of course. But yeah, always very consistent. All their albums are pretty good. The first couple of albums have a little different sound while they found their footing, but after that, they had a very, very consistent run of albums, and this one is absolutely no different. It was always a shame they didn't get more recognition, but they were one of those bands that kept hopping from label to label to label. And as we've discussed on other shows, that makes it really hard sometimes for a band to get the exposure and traction they need to. But yeah, Conjuration of the Spectral Empire, just another really fine cog in the discography of the Chasm. It's a band we could do an episode on sometime, except it's just like every album's like, well, that one sounds good too. There's nuances you can pick apart here and there if you really nitpick into them. But they were just a damn good band that had a very cool sound, and not a lot of bands were doing that sound at this time. Today, you can't throw a guitar pick without hitting 3 different people trying to do cavernous old school vocals and production and stuff. But, when the Chasm was doing this stuff in the early 2000s, nobody much was doing that stuff anymore. Again, some exceptions, but I think that also kind of helped the Chasm stand out. The folks that wanted to hear that sound, the Chasm was delivering it, and they were delivering it really, really well.
Absolutely. Great band. One of the best live bands I've ever seen, too. They're so good. So good. All right. Well, we're going to go nerdy here. We're going nerdy Italian symphonic metal, power metal. We got Rhapsody, Power of the Dragon Flame. And you want to see just how nerdy this gets. Well, we're going to go there. I think it was the album after this. This little guy right here. This little guy in a mask here, the wizard dude. He's actually in the band, either the album before or after this. I think his name is the Wizard, and he played keyboards. So
Mortis's cousin?
I don't know. It's some pretty high adventure type of stuff when you actually have a wizard goblin in your band. So, pretty cool. But say what you want about this, man, it's so good. It's just the absolute pinnacle of shreddery, whether it's the keyboards, the guitar work, Luca Turilli, and I can't remember the damn guy's the vocalist name.
Fabio Leone.
That guy. He's just got a great set of pipes. Very operatic. Awesome killer dragon artwork. I mean, really everything. If you want to go, dip into a hot vat of cheese, this is the music playing in the background.
Little case.
You got, some, goblins stirring the Velveeta for you while you're in there bubbling. But this is so good. It's just so good. And it's funny because when this was hit in 2002, I think I got a promo for the album before or after this. It just went in the get this out of my house box. I'm too underground, black metal, death metal, whatever. But now the older I get, I'm like, more of this, please. More. So I have way more Rhapsody and Rhapsody of Fire CDs than a person probably needs. But hey, it's fun, and you got to collect them all. They're like Pokemon, right? So, yep.
Yeah.
Power of the Dragon Flame by Rhapsody.
Yeah, that's a solid Rhapsody album. It's got some really good tunes on it. They wore thin with me after that album real fast. That was the last one. I was like, yeah, they're still doing pretty good here. But yeah, they can, as Jack said, they can be just too much, and it's not just the cheesy thing. They just get too emotionally overwrought about their beautiful dragon steeds in some of those songs. It's just like it's just an imaginary character in a little story you wrote. You don't have to break down crying because it got pierced with a lance or something. It's okay. Yeah. Rhapsody.
Right. Jason Hook.
No, what's funny about that Rhapsody? See, a friend of mine actually owned that back in that era. And
are you sure it was that one? Because there's like a line of 5 of them that have a dragon on them.
It was a Rhapsody CD with a dragon on it.
It's the one with the dragon. People are like, "Oh, fuck off."
We used to go on a road trip, and you put it on and piss everyone else in the fucking car off because no one wanted to listen to it.
Yeah.
Like seriously, not making fun of it, but I like the whole thing was like, hey, it's your turn for the music, and you better not put on fucking Rhapsody. I don't even think he liked it either. I think it was like a whole like torture. Like, what's up, Dennis?
Rhapsody, dude.
Yeah. It was Blake. So we're gonna stay in Massachusetts. We're gonna stay with a hardcore band, and we're gonna stay with a hardcore band I saw 8 million times. Here is the A Team. A is for asshole. Yeah, I couldn't. This going along with the Jason shtick. I couldn't find my regular copy of it, but I do have.
Wonder why?
The record release version. Yeah.
Great record, man.
With the date of the show on the back. Hey, listen to anyone in here who listens to hardcore, get this show. I was at this show and I couldn't afford this. I didn't end up buying this until COVID because I had no money to buy this. But right, listen to the show. The A Team, Close Call, Suicide File, Stop and Think, The Prowl, and Mental.
That's peak Boston hardcore, baby.
Yeah, that's BHC on the map, baby. On camo vinyl.
Of course.
Nice.
Oh, cool.
And I bought this on Discogs, Pat. No, I say Pat because he's probably the only guy who's going to know. The singer from Striking Distance is the one who mailed it to me.
Oh, no shit.
Yeah. Yeah, and then he wrote me
the guy who coined the term the fuck me horseshoe.
Yeah, and then he wrote me a whole little note. Apologies for the delay. Being an adult sucks. Maybe I should become a monk and make beer. Enjoy and cheers, Dave.
Nice.
But yeah, the A Team again in that era, like I mentioned with Cut the Shit. Boston hardcore got weird, hardcore got metally, hardcore got swoopy haired and tight jeans, and I'm a cool guy, and I like Morrissey a lot, but I also like hardcore. And then there's bands like this who are just trying to do stripped down, slap shot, straightforward hardcore. Lyrics and song titles that might bum people out in 2024.
Should we talk about the Halloween show?
Yeah, no. I don't think. I think that's been erased. Pat, no one knows about that.
Okay.
Songs like "Give My Retards to Broadway," "Shit Rolls Downhill."
Yeah, like if you're the type of metal guy that really likes shit like SOD and Carnivore, it's not that level of offensive, but you can tell, you can hear a little inspiration.
Yeah, and they were great. It was just they were a great band.
Well, that guitarist is massively talented, right? What other bands was he in? He was in Clouds. He was in a bunch of other bands that weren't like the A-Team at all. He's a shredder.
Yeah.
So.
Well, he was in Hope Conspiracy and American Nightmare too.
Okay, yeah.
So, but these guys played every weekend. I mean, anyone who lived in Massachusetts, they had an apartment on a street called Ashford, and the house was called Thrashford. And it was a fucking party every weekend. You show up with beers. There's dudes from bands there. You have their fucking party. Debauchery times 10. And then their last show was actually, I think today in 2003, during one of the worst snowstorms that we've had in like 20 years. And it was also completely insane. Snowballs, cakes, people moshing with the Hulk hands with X's drawn on them. And it was just like a great time. And they played a show a couple years ago around Christmas time. Like we're all old men now, and people all just like came out and just old men with gray hairs and beards were moshing. But this is just great stuff. You can probably literally find this thing if you want to own like a physical copy of this. You can probably get it for almost nothing. I mean, like
the regular ones that we're showing off with like the yellow logo and stuff. They're like $5 on
this thing you can probably find a cutout bin. It's also really awesome computer art of a tank rolling over someone in a wheelchair and a pregnant woman and someone with a crutch. Just hey, it was 2002 was different, guys. But anyways, this is the A-Team. A is for asshole. Just awesome shit. I love this band.
Oh yeah, No Man's Slave. I forgot about. I should have pulled that. Yeah,
I almost did. I almost did that.
When he says "almost did," it means translation. I couldn't find it in my.
No, I found collection. It. I found it right there.
It's over there. Yeah.
It's over here.
Excuse me.
Behind that, next to the prototype, behind the sheet.
Yeah, you got to move the obelisk.
All right, Pat. What's next?
Oh, okay. Some of these are things I didn't discover till like way later. People in the chat were talking about like saying like, yeah, there was a lot of good death metal. It was the brutal stuff, and I think that era, like the very early 2000s of brutal DM.
And I hated that. At that point, I didn't want nothing to do with that. It was way
before it got cartoonish, though. It was like just really there was a certain kind of drum sound. I'll get to it, but that stuff I didn't discover till like 4 or 5 years ago because I missed out on it completely. I was into hardcore. I started listening to that Heavy Hole podcast, and that guy has such strong lore with talking about all that Long Island stuff and Yonkers stuff. So I went on a deep dive like half a decade ago and was like, oh, here's all this stuff that I missed. Totally right. A lot of great death metal at that time. Like I didn't want to pull it out of one of my boxes because I packed it up. But that Humanized record, like what is it? Jackson Heights or Crown Heights, Brooklyn. Awesome stuff. This is not that though. This is something I listened to at the time. This is grind though. This is maybe more on the punk side of grind. Catheter, Preamble to Oblivion. This band was from Denver, Colorado, I believe. Really, really good grindcore. Lots of songs on this, like 30 songs or something. They cover a bunch of different shit that kind of shows their influences on their sleeves. They do an Accused cover. They do Napalm Death. Like that is pretty much where they're coming from. Kind of the same groundwork laid by Repulsion and Napalm. Little bit of like stonery doom and some breakdowns there. They kind of worked that in more and more as time went on with their subsequent records. But I love this because it's a long kind of doomy intro, and then it kicks into the first bunch of blast beats with a Young Ones sample, which is, I'm a nerd for that show. You can hear Vivian saying it's basically a cure for not being an axe-wielding homicidal maniac, and they start going into it. So yeah, if you're looking to check out some grind, if you like stuff like Phobia and that kind of shit, that kind of more crusty side of grind, I guess this can't go wrong with this. It's a good slice. What did it come out on? SMG Records, which I've never heard of, but
all right, Alan.
All right, before I show my next one, I meant to say this last time, but I saw Andy in the chat a few minutes ago, and I wanted to give him a shout out. A couple of weeks ago, I posted a video over on Let's Talk Metal asking about a weird thing that happened to Exciter's Violence and Force. How at some point, all the reissues of it lost one of the songs. It went from having 10 songs on it to 9 songs. It had always driven me crazy. Is like, why did they take one of the songs off the album? Andy was the person who actually knew why it was, and he explained it really well in the comments on that video. So, Andy, you're awesome. Thank you so much for answering that for me. I can sleep a little bit easier now because I finally understand what the heck happened to the Lost Exciter
Well,
song.
what was the reason? Because I watched your video and I was curious too after that whole thing.
Yeah, a short version was, when looking at the CD pressings on Discogs, it looks like it just got left off when they started reissuing it on CD in the early 2000s or late 90s. However, there was one of those in the late 80s, I think it was 89, there was one of those CD pressings of it where they did like the 2 albums on one CD thing.
Oh, yeah.
And what always happens when they
always
did that
cut
back
shit
then?
off them. Yeah.
They always cut a song off. They left one song off of, because they put Violence of Force and Heavy Metal Maniac on the same CD, and they took one song off of each of them. Well, when they started reissuing Heavy Metal Maniac later on, they had apparently gone back to the original source material and had the full album. But when they started reissuing Violence and Force later, guess what source material they used?
The split.
They used the split, which was missing that same song.
Aha.
So yeah, Andy, I've been meaning to say thank you for answering that. That's really cool that you figured that out, because it was driving everybody in the chat crazy. It's like, it made no sense. And because it was one of those 2-on-1 CD pressings, it's not listed on Discogs as a regular version of either album. It's buried under like the compilations section of Exciter's Discogs page. So I had completely missed it. So yes, mystery solved thanks to Andy.
So your week wasn't all bad, Alan. Come on. Week wasn't all bad.
Well, no, I mean, some good things happened, but figuring out what happened to an Exciter song, stepping in poop water. One of these things has a little more of an emotional impact in the past, 6 hours than the other one did.
I don't know how good's the song.
It's a really good Exciter song. It's really, that's what pisses me off, is that it doesn't show up on any of the recent reissues.
At least it doesn't poop you off. Anyway.
Where's the mute button?
Damn it.
That's enough from you, sir. Anyway, let's move on to another great album. Played this on the way home today because, yes, it very much sort of encapsulated my mood by the end of this really shitty day. W.A.S.P's Unholy Terror.
It's a good album.
It's a really good album. I know most people gravitate towards the really early W.A.S.P stuff, and those albums are fine. But, Blackie had some very, very good albums, through the 90s and into the early 2000s as well. And Unholy Terror might be the last really essential W.A.S.P album. I'm not going to, don't hold me to that. That's just an off the top of my head thing. I like a lot of the albums that came after this, but this might be the last one that feels like it's you got to have it if you're a Blackie Lawless fan. Tons of great songs on here. He's in top form. You've got, Ravenheart. You've got Hate to Love Me, Let It Roar. It's got every bit of the just kind of seething anger, pissed off vitriol that you go to Blackie for. There's a ballad on here somewhere too. He does that. He's pretty good at it. If you don't like it, you can always skip the track. But Unholy Terror is really top notch. It sits just fine right there alongside some of those early albums like the debut and Headless Children and such. If you haven't heard this one, it's definitely worth checking out. It is unfortunately a little bit hard to find. I don't think it's been reissued for a while. If I've missed a reissue of it, hey, it's somebody in the chat. Let other folks know. I'm not sure how Blackie feels about getting these reissued at this point. This, of course, is before he got born again. So, having a album reissued now where he's got, bullet holes shot into a Bible probably doesn't fit his personal ethos anymore. Maybe he can put it back out with the redone cover art. That'd be a good compromise for all. I don't know. But yeah, great music just to say, I'm pissed off, fed up, and angry with all this shit. nice little cathartic release for me on the commute home. And we'll just say that, usually it's about a 45, 50-minute drive home. I got home a lot faster than that with this playing.
All right.
Over to you, Marty.
Well, someone mentioned it in the chat, so I figured I'd move it to the front of the line. Actually, Manilla Road put out a couple things in 2002, one of which is Spiral Castle. You find a bit more vocal action on here by Brian Hill, Rhodey Patrick. But this is where they are recording it. Midgard Sound Labs. It's basically Mark's basement. So it's got kind of a basement kind of sound to it. But man, the songs are so good. The guitar work is so good. It's just really great. Also came out in 2002 is the Mark of the Beast collection. It's an amazing piece of cover art, and it's like an older session. But the thing of it is, it's like, I don't know. I can't find a copy that's not, under $150, but it's way more than that. But this Dreams of Eshkatan is basically that Mark of the Beast, but reverse track order for some reason. I don't know why they did it that way, but it's kind of like radio station quality, like they went in and played something live. I don't know. There's an explanation for it in here. I don't remember what it is, but yeah, banger crop of some really killer Manilla Road stuff came out in 2002. Love this band. Love this band. And yeah, excellent. Check these out for sure. You should still be able to find them at a reasonable price. Oh, that Mark of the Beast record is very expensive. And yeah, very expensive.
Yeah, the Dreams of Eschaton thing had floated around on bootlegs for years before that. And it was always kind of heralded as some of the peak Manilla Road material, but it was only available on, kind of shitty bootlegs like Reborn Classic stuff and all. So yeah, when that came out, it was a big deal, and people have gobbled it up right away. And yeah, it was one of those funny things where they worked on that album for a long time, and then by the time they were close to releasing it, they realized it wasn't really the sound they were focused on anymore. So they just shelved it and moved on in a heavier direction instead.
There's a lot of obviously a lot of jamming on it, but there's a lot of well, this is the first two songs on the Streams of Eshkatan, but it would have been the last two on Mark of the Beast. Very kind of melancholic, really great. There are some very, very good songs on that collection.
Trying to see, Marty, do you remember at the top of your head when that stuff was originally recorded?
I don't remember.
I want to say it was around, they recorded it around 81, 82. And I will say, if they had tried releasing that around 82 or 83, it probably would have sounded awfully dated with all those long jams on the Eschaton. That would have been a hard sell in 1983, I think. Yeah. So,
but now,
in a way, maybe it's better that they did move on and do the heavier Crystal Logic and open the gates kind of stuff in the following years.
Great stuff. Great band. Sadly missed. All right, Jason Hook.
Again, we're still in Massachusetts here. Another release, which I think two people in the chat will be into. This is a collection of all the unseen 7-inches and EPs and splits that came out from 1994 to 2000 on Punkcore Records. The Unseen I believe they're still a band. A spiky-haired punk band from the South Shore that blew up and traveled the whole world. So it's like got little photo inserts in the middle. You got lots of studs, lots of spikes.
How the hell did you evade like not getting in a band yourself, like not playing an instrument? Because I mean that's like very few people are just fans anymore. You know what I mean?
I just have no talent, man.
Neither did I, and I was like in 7 or 8 bands before I called it. I was always the vocalist, but
talent is irrelevant. It's relative.
I don't know, man. It just kind of missed me. I was always around, and I went on tours and just hung out and had a lot of fun, but I just never was in a band. I'm the dude that just collects everything. Like all my friends' bands send me 7-inches. I still have all that stuff. Like I have a friend right now who will put stuff out and he'll just send me test presses of what he does because he's like, yeah, you're like I know it'll be in good hands. Like you'll just have it.
Right.
But yeah, so this is like their street punk band. This is their very early days up until 2000. They put out The Anger and the Truth in 2001, which is I think that's a perfect blend of punk and hardcore in my opinion. To this day I still love that record. But this got the splits with Toxic Narcotic. This is going to be some names here if anyone's in the 90s punk. Toxic Narcotic, Tom and Boot Boys. Then there's the Raise Your Finger, Raise Your Fist 7-inch. The Protect and Serve 7-inch. Too Young to Know, Too Reckless to Care 7-inch. And then some comp tracks. The anti hardcore song Choke's Dead, You're Next. The Slapshot did Punk's Dead, You're Next. Hitler Was a Vampire. Just some jams in here. This is the Unseen. Fuck the KKK, Goodbye America. So this is Freedom. It's just this. I want to put this on right now, to be honest with you. This might also came out on CD. I'm not sure if it did. I'm sure I have it. But yeah, it's just a collection of like the 90s Boston. Like this band did a lot for the punk scene, and especially here. They booked shows. They put records out. They were the sole reason a lot of bands came up here. Yeah. This is how I cut my teeth. These were the guys I saw all the time. And they're from the South Shore. I would see them at like the supermarket and stuff. But and this guy here has written a bunch of books. He just put out a book that's a collection of ads from a store called Building 19, which is awesome. He wrote a book about being in the band. It's just, and they play every once in a while. I saw him a couple of years ago they did that show. But yeah, this is the Unseen, the complete singles collection, 94 to 2000, double LP. Another thing you can probably buy for like $10.
Yeah,
nice.
Like it can't really be understated. Like I never got into the Unseen because I was getting into like crust and power violence, and my street punk phase was already kind of over when I was like into like Oxymoron and Casualties and stuff. But live, they were really good, and my old band opened for them like a handful of times, and it's like hard to understate like how big it was on a DIY level. You would go to like very big halls because at this point in Boston, the Rat had closed, the Rat Skeller. And all these kids like went out to neighborhoods to go see the bands play. I remember my band opening for them in Toxic Narcotic, and there easily being like 500 kids. I mean, for that kind of stuff, like 500 people's like a lot. Like at like, you know, a Legion Hall in, you know, a semi-suburban area. Yeah. You know, so they were massive when they were around.
Yeah, there was a show in Quincy Center that was a 12-hour show. It started at noon and ended at midnight.
I was there.
I think it had every band of note of that time, the Showcase Showdown, the Unseen, all the big bands, Casualties, But this show, no joke, probably had about 1,200 fucking kids at it. I'm not even exaggerating.
Yeah, I have pictures of that show actually.
And this was 100% DIY. I don't think anyone was older than 19, except if you were like in a band. The flyer's hilarious. I still have it somewhere. It's like it's all bad clip art, but like the puking fucking Republicans and like just dumbass names but like there was a run of like 2 or 3 years where they just like they traded shows and they just happened, and like there'd be hundreds of kids, they'd be sold out, they'd sell out of the Knights of Columbus.
Yep.
And it's all this stuff here. So if you ever want to get Boston 90s punk, just go and buy this. It's all you need. And then go look at the other bands.
Right on.
All right. So another band that I saw in Boston, much smaller show in a basement. The Black Hand from Toronto. I think they're from Toronto. They're a Canadian band anyway. Warmonger. Clearly that's away art.
Oh yeah.
Very Canadian. And I got this for my old distro, and I remember being really kind of disappointed by it. Maybe think it was overproduced or something. It's like metal tinged, crusty punk hardcore stuff. Their debut EP, I think it was originally a demo, but it was pressed onto CD and 10-inch. Actually has really good production, called Pulling Your Strings, is a really good example of like punk and hardcore kids taking a little bit of like the Gothenburg sound. Before that was a thing that everybody did, and it was way dirtier and way faster. Like it wasn't like, you know, an excuse to put Hatebreed breakdowns between At the Gates riffs. Like it was way more like kind of D-beat inspired and stuff. That record's incredible. So getting this, I was kind of like, but going back and listening to it now, it's actually quite good. It's a little bit more like crust, kind of predating or coming up around the same time as stuff like Tragedy, who I'm sure Jason or I will bring up at some point. But yeah, really good apocalyptic. And there's a lot of bleed over with these guys and other Canadian bands like Ire and I want to say like Born Dead Icons, a lot of well-known bands from the era. I think they shared members with some of those. My old band was called Class Action.
Daggers Rule
was Syracuse, but the band I was talking about that. Oh yeah, there you go. right there. R.I.P. Ross Noyes. But yeah, Black Hand, good stuff. That debut 10-inch though is really good. I remember actually 4 years ago when we were doing the COVID streams, when Austin from Panopticon was on a couple of them, he brought that up somehow and was like, yeah, that record's great. So, you know, Panopticon approved. Black Hand.
Right on. All right, Alan.
All right, so let's see. For folks that have come on late, just a quick reminder. I mentioned this at the start of the show, but I've got extra copies of the new issue of Deserts of Hex. This is the zine put out by Hunter Ginn over at Radical Research, and I'm giving these away to a viewer next week. To enter to win a copy, all you've got to do is leave a comment on this video. So in the comments below, leave a comment with your favorite album from 2002. It can be metal, hardcore, punk, whatever. And then on next week's stream, we'll pick a couple of winners for those. All right, next one for me. Another good death metal release from the year. And somebody mentioned this earlier. I think they had reeled off a list of several death metal titles, but yeah, I had this one to show. Nile had their third album come out, In Their Darkened Shrines. And really like this one myself. I'm relatively new to getting into Nile. They're a band I just never quite dug into enough. They're, for me, they're kind of borderline pushing the brutality and technicality. For me, they stay on the right side of the line. I still really enjoy the stuff. I'll admit, if they pushed it any more in a brutal or technical direction, I probably would lose interest real fast. But they write cool songs. A lot of them are very memorable. I like digging through the liner notes that Carl writes about all the crazy source materials he goes through from Egyptian archaeology for inspiration. And this one got some really good tracks on it. I tend to like the slower songs on here a little bit more, but also there's the one that's got the crazy long title. What is it? Hold on. Of course, it's in a funny font.
Destruction of the Temple of the Enemies of Ra.
No, the other one, Unas, Slayer of the Gods. I guess it's not that long.
That's not very
long. Yeah, Unas has kind of a little bit more of like a longer epic structure to it also, which, just stands out really well. So yeah, Nile were doing quite well by this point. I like all the early albums, and they put out a really, really good album this year. So they're still doing quite well. At some point, I'm going to have to start working my way through the middle of their discography, because I think this is the last one I've got by them, and then just a little bit of the more recent stuff. So for folks in the chat, if there's any particular ones in the middle of the Nile run that I should check out in their catalog, leave a comment and let me know what I should look for next. But so yes, there were good death metal albums coming out. There just wasn't a huge scene of it. The revival hadn't started, and the original movement was kind of long over. Nile was kind of late on the death metal scene, I guess, when you think about it. But they've obviously done really well for themselves and have a really cool shtick. The Egyptian thing just works, and kind of local. So cheers to that.
Yeah.
They are playing actually here in January, although I think it's like in the middle of the week, so there's very little chance I'll get to catch them.
That's a bummer, because they're really quite amazing. Watching that George Colias, or Colias, however you say his name, he's a phenomenal. He's just amazing to watch play drums. Great.
Yeah, I have seen them once before, back in probably I think it was '99. So, but it's been a long time. It would be cool to catch them again. But 8 o'clock on a Tuesday night is a weird time to try to catch a live show. We'll see if it works out.
All right. Well, I was griping about death metal, but here's one that's a definite banger. Supergroup of sorts. Bloodbath from Sweden. Resurrection through Carnage. This is a fantastic record other than the production. It's got that classic HM2 sound. They just swoop the shit out of the mids. It's like the middle is just sucked right out of it. Very tin canny sound. The drums are very triggered. Aside from the production, Ways to the Grave, So You Die. I mean, there are just amazingly good death metal songs on here. You got Dan Swano. You've got Jonas Rensk. You got Blackheim from Catatonia. You got Michael Ackerfeld from Opeth on vocals. This is just really good Swedish death homage to awesome Swedish death metal, and just a little too. They tried to modernize the sound a little too much, too clicky of drums, but it's still a really good sound. You know, it's that buzzsaw guitar that you love, and the songs are really well written and very catchy. Super sick vocals. Check it out if you have not heard it. It's great. Jason.
All right, again, we're sticking in the Northeast. Now I'm going to do another punk hit because I seem to be getting reactions with it from the chat here.
Oh,
So
yeah, folks are loving the stuff that you're picking.
I kind of cheated a little bit. James, delete that because that's coming up later. I kind of cheated on this one. This one came out. This version came out in 2002, but that's the A Global Threat. What the fuck will change? LP. This was originally a CD in like a sandwich bag that I bought at the last Trouble show that I literally burned a hole through. Oh, my son's awake. We'll see if we get a cameo. Yeah, he's pissed.
He is pissed.
But that's Mark from the Unseen right there. This band had two singers. I don't think my wife's inside. All right, you might have to pause me for a second here.
All right,
No worries.
we'll go with Patrick.
Yeah, buddy.
I'll mute you too. There you go.
All right. So to get to my newfound interest in early 2000s brutal death metal,
That band is good.
Mortal
is
Decay,
good.
Forensic. You know, I mean, if I would have known what this sounded like, I would have gotten into this stuff a lot earlier. This is, I mean, it does have like the trappings of what people consider brutal death metal, I guess, like the drum sound, the kind of slightly pingy snare, the sort of toilet flushy, slightly affected vocals, but it's got great riffs. It doesn't try to pack everything in, and it's not all busy and frantic. Like the music breathes. There's atmosphere all over all of it. Like it's just a really well written death metal record. Just straight up death metal, you know. And it's part of that Northeastern thing. They're a Jersey band, you know. I'm sure they played with the Yonkers bands and the Brooklyn bands and all that stuff. But yeah, big shout out to Big Will from the Heavy Hole, because he always talked about this stuff, and it was a very big blind spot to me. I think it's a unique leader press. So I think so. I think it's an early OG press. I don't think I paid a ton for it or anything, but yeah, great band. The only brutal bands that I was into when they were around was like Dying Fetus, of course, and like Skinless and Internal Bleeding. I didn't know about any of this unique leader stuff until relatively recently, but you know, better late than never. So
Seems like it was kind of hard to be out east and escape Internal Bleeding. I mean, I remember back in the day, their demo and the flyers were just in every package I opened. There was Internal Bleeding flyers. Every single, there'd be like 5 of them would fall out. I'm like, I've never heard this band, but I don't want to hear this band. They're
they played Syracuse when they just got the singer that was like their main singer for a while, the guy that wasn't on the first 2 EPs. And when my old zine, actually my friend Matt that I did the zine with was in the chat earlier. I don't know if he is right now, but we were young. We were like 15 or 16 and we're doing this death metal zine. And those guys were so nice. Like, they played Syracuse. They were like great. I think they only played to like 50 people. And we did an interview with them. They were always like super, super cool people. But yeah, I mean, they were into pushing their stuff, you know. Got to do it if you're on Wild Rags, you know. Like you gotta get yourself out there.
yeah, yeah, way over promoted. It was back in those days. It was Internal Bleeding and Black Funeral, Journey to Horizons Lost flyers were in everything, man. Those two, it's crazy. Anyway, great hustle. You got great marketing. They did it right.
Chris Prevel.
All right.
All right, he's back in bed. I don't know if you heard his high drama of wanting someone to know that he was awake.
This protest.
Yeah. Yeah. So anyways, it's a global threat. What the fuck will change? Main spiky haired punk. That's Mark from the Unseen. They had two vocalists, another punk core release. This band rules. It's punk with a hardcore flair. This will tell you about the time right there. I paid $11.99 for this, and it was put on the shelf on 10/25/02. What is this cool vinyl? But yeah, this is a lot of anti-government songs, anti-religious songs. They kept the mics so you can hear bondage belts and bracelets changing during like kind of like the softer parts of the music. You can hear like this band, they played a ton. They put out a bunch of other. They put out a ton of records after this that I kind of felt, the spiky hair thing kind of died out, but they were still putting out great shit. Little insert there using the sick mohawks. God, I could never have a cool mohawk. I could never wear cool clothes too because I was fat. I could never have like cool like stretch jeans or anything. But but yeah, this is like I love to this day. I still put this shit on. I still spin it on the reg. I run into this dude all the time at shows. We stand in the back and talk about how we're old. And yeah, but that's a global threat. What the fuck will change? Another absolute scorcher, which you can probably find for almost nothing.
It's funny you mentioned the too fat for clothes. I'm getting, it's that time of year now where I'm in stores and people are like, oh, you're wearing shorts. Why are you wearing shorts? I'm like, I'm too fat to find any pants that fit me. So I wear shorts.
I'm wearing pants right now because I blew the crotch out of my last pair of like shorts that were wearable. And I just feel so fucking weird with pants on. But I bought like fat people pants from the big man store.
Yeah, so. I've got a stretchy pair of pants on now, and I hate them. They're halfway down my ass. I'm sitting on my ass cracks, rubbing on the back of my office chair. I'm like, God, being fat is hard. People don't understand the struggle, man.
No, they don't.
They don't. They don't get it. We're a tougher cut. All right, Ellen.
All right, let's talk a little black metal. This one was requested. I think James requested this one earlier, and yep, it was in the stack. Black metal is also in kind of a weird place in 2002. There's good albums, but you also have some bands were about to become big, like Deathspell Omega, but they weren't big yet. And other bands just were around and didn't have an album out by chance, or Emperor's kind of done their thing by this point. So yeah. Like death metal, black metal just feels like it's in a little bit of a weird place in 2002. But if there's one band you could count on to always, show up and have some fun at the party, it was Immortal. Sons of Northern Darkness comes out in 2002. It's a very solid Immortal album. I like it. It doesn't necessarily have big standout tracks that stick with me over time. But I like it more than Damned in Black. It's not on the level of At the Heart of Winter or anything. So, there are better Immortal albums, but there are also worse Immortal albums. It's just a very solid one. And it kind of has a blend of their styles from over the years. It feels like, they're dipping back into a little bit of the older material, but also still doing the newer sound as well. So it kind of works well, just kind of showcasing, what they had done up to this point in their career, at least. So yeah, looking around, and maybe I've missed one or two that Marty or somebody else will have, but yeah, I don't see a lot of the, bigger name black metal bands with releases in 2002. And I haven't seen a whole lot pop up in the chat just yet either. Again, bands like Deathspell were on their second album, I think, so that they hadn't quite developed their big grandiose style that would come with C Monumentum and such. But Immortal is still there, still delivering the goods. A band that's always been worth checking out. Even their worst albums or ones I'll go back to from time to time and give another chance. And some of those have grown on me over time too.
All right,
I saw Immortal around that era with Manowar. I think.
Me too.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, at the Worcester Palladium, the metal and hardcore fest. And I remember, I'm going to be real honest with you guys. At that time, I was like, I liked Manowar because they were corny. I was a punk hardcore kid, and I was not into Immortal. And I just remember the singer staying in character, who was like, we're happy to be in Worcester. And I was like, oh, dude, come on, man. Thank you for coming out. Like,
Did he actually pronounce it correctly?
I think he did, yeah, which is mind blowing. But it was just like really funny because it was just so like, I was like I dabbled in that kind of stuff, but like just seeing the paint and I was like, man, just riffs, dude. Like that's like I was like the whole like now I appreciate it, but at the time I was like, man, this guy doesn't skateboard.
He clearly longboards. That's Abbott's thing.
Yeah,
it's a longboarder.
Yeah, those bands do lose something in the wrong venue. I saw Marduk in North Carolina in Winston-Salem in this like little. It was a concert, play venue, but it's basically it was all like wooden structure. I mean, it almost feels like being inside a barn. And here's this, Swedish, badass, black metal band trying to, be all, grim and evil sounding. And it's like, a bunch of rednecks from Western North Carolina standing around watching them. It just doesn't work. It was it was one of the only shows where like, me and one of my friends were like, we're just going to make this happen because we're like standing in the back, nobody's doing anything. And the band, it's hey, how many chances you get to see something like this Western North Carolina? So we literally just started elbowing our way through the crowd, like we're just going to be jerks and make people mosh by pushing them. So we just started shoving people around until they finally started a pit. Yeah. And you could tell the guys on stage were like, "Oh, thank God, somebody's finally doing something." Because for the first 3 songs, everyone's just stood here staring at us.
Yeah.
So after that, the show was more fun. Although I had to go teach the next day with a black eye because someone got me pretty good in the pit.
Oh, my buddy Blake will come up later. Just was on crutches at that show, and he was wearing like a denim jacket that had the Man of War hammer painted on the back. And I remember he was standing in front of Immortal while I think I might have told the story before. He was standing in front of Immortal, waving his crutch, going "Death the false metal, fucking Man of War rules." While they were
nice.
And even I knew, I'm like, man, this band, that's fucking Immortal, dude. And he was just like, I don't fucking care.
Yeah.
Nice. Come to think of it, Marty, I saw Rhapsody in that exact same barn venue in Winston.
Did they have the guy dressed up like a goblin?
They did not, but they were trying to, and they also had the same problem though, where trying to do this really very synth heavy enchanted tale of my dragon steed, dude. You're in NASCAR country. You don't ride dragons around here. No. What the fuck's wrong with you?
They do that in Italy, maybe, but not. Yeah.
Yeah, they sounded good. They played well, but the shtick just didn't work in that kind of venue whatsoever. It wasn't like it was corny fun. It was just like it was corny sad.
Yeah.
It's just like, you guys, this just bless your hearts. This just don't fly here. No. Anyway.
All right. Well, let's get to I got about 3 more death metal ones. So we're gonna knock those out. Grave reformed in 2002. They put out their album Back from the Grave.
Be right back.
Right on. This isn't necessarily top tier Grave, but it's a solid record. It's a 2 CD set. I don't remember what was on CD 2. I think like they put out redid some older songs, but the thing that's different here is Ola Lindgren is singing and playing guitar on here instead of Jürgen Sandstrom was during my favorite period of the band. But I don't know. This is pretty solid. They got very prolific after this. They started turning out records pretty regularly. All of them good, but not really great. But still, this one hit my player. Based on they were, grandfathered in on the nostalgia factor a little bit. So I always give them a little bit more of a chance than maybe I normally would have, but pretty solid. Back from the Dead. Grave is back at that point, 2002. All right, Alan.
Didn't I just go?
Yep. Jason.
Oops.
I'm drinking water tonight. And I can't keep it together. It's crazy.
We're gonna take 95 up to Canada for Haymaker. I didn't do my research. Yeah, I know. Yes, yeah. Some Pusshead artwork, which was crazy for a 2002 Canadian hardcore band.
Wow, that is crazy. Yeah.
they probably just sent. I heard a lot of stories at the time where like a lot of bands or hardcore bands were trying to get him to do art, and like he'd just randomly do some and randomly not do other ones. So there's like bands that put out a 7-inch and never really left their state that has Pushead artwork because he just listened to it and liked it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Haymaker were a Canadian hardcore band. Again, very straightforward. There's no thrills or frills on this thing. But the thing about this band at the time was they were notorious for, they would play and the crowd would go crazy and dumb shit would happen and the show would get broken down, shut down. And then it kind of got a lore. Pat will back this one up. They kind of had a lore with them for a while that if you invite them to come play, they're going to, shut the show down because they're going to light off fireworks and someone's going to throw
it was a big thing at the time. There was a lot of bands that did that. Like Nine Shot Terror, I think, kicked that off.
Yeah. So they never really played that much out of Canada that I know of. Like, I mean, I'm sure they played the States, but I don't even remember ever seeing Haymaker. And they got relatively popular and put out a bunch of stuff after this. This is a great LP though. And
yeah, it's good.
On Deranged. Lots of songs on here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. But it looks like about 20 songs. Cool logo too.
It was 1 or 2 guys from Left 4 Dead, wasn't it?
Yeah, and they were doing like, let's see if this is cool guy vinyl. No, it's just black. Boo, poser. Yeah, and it's like I said, it's in the vein of some of the other stuff where there's no frills on this. This is just boom, boom, boom.
Yeah.
Hammer to the head, hammer to the head, hammer to the head 20 times. Slightly
metallic, like a little bit of a crossover kind of thing, but not like to the level of like Municipal Waste or something like that.
No. And then like I was saying, I'm gonna re-sleeve my record here too. Fuck all you. This is also again like I love that I keep these sleeves because this has a 7/30 2002, and I paid $9.99 for this brandy new LP in 2002. Yep. That's Haymaker. I don't even remember what this is called. This is self-titled.
Yeah. You got that at Noobs?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, as you can see,
recognize the sticker. Yeah.
You'll see a couple more of these tonight, I believe. But sure. But again, going with the Jason theme tonight, another record that you could probably hop on Discogs and get for probably $9.99.
Why is it? Let me ask you this. Why is it that the punk records? I mean, that's not true because I've been to some stores and seen a lot of jacked up prices on punk records. Yeah. But
depends on what you're talking about.
You can still find stuff, that is like ridiculous price, like crazy.
Well, the thing about this too was at the time, I mean, there's probably a ridiculous amount of these pressed. The Range was pressing these. They were selling. Like you could find this. Every store you went to had stacks of these. Newbury Comics had them. Independent record stores had them. Distros at shows had stacks. Like this, if you couldn't find this in 2002, like I don't know what you were doing, man. This thing was everywhere. And I think what happened is like the band never really toured. They disappeared, and there's a ton of these in basements and in old bedrooms all over the place.
Yep.
I still got my OG though. It smells like 2002.
All right, Patrick.
All right, so I don't think Jason would be showing this because he didn't really. I don't think these guys played Boston that much, but this is The Promise, Believer. This is like a continuation of a bunch of different bands from Syracuse and a member from Philly and a drummer from Albany. It's like kind of a super group. It's a straight edge band that was around. The bands that kind of preceded it were like chuggy, metallic, like hate breedish kind of stuff. And the guys wanted to do more of a traditional, faster, hardcore kind of thing with it. But they're all like really good musicians. Like I don't think any of them played in a straight up metal band. Like they're another band they did, Sana Sangre, was pretty close to being a straight up metal band, but they all were into metal like a lot. And you could tell by their playing. Jim Winters, the guitarist on this, helped produce the first Earth Crisis album with the guy from Believer. The guy from Believer produced that record. Kurt, whatever, was friends with Jim. Jim was also on the third Believer record. I think he was on Dimensions. So there's a Believer, The Promise connection right there. But this is like fast. It's intricate. It's not all power chords. There's like some melodic stuff going on. Kind of gruff vocals, kind of tough guyish vocals, but it's pretty unique. Like they're taking cues from bands like Burn and Turning Point and making it kind of tougher and harder sounding. Really well produced. Their shows were fantastic, lots of fun. Look at that pile of people. That's it. I believe at Hellfest before it was the big Hellfest in Europe. It's a completely different fest, actually. They just like have the same name. But those fests, I went to a couple of those and they were insane. They were at the New York State Fairgrounds and just had like thousands and thousands of people on them. And it was like hardcore. Like, they were cool about letting people on stage and stuff. So it was just like a mob of people singing along. So really cool band to see live. Very good people too. Jonathan Dennison, fucking great guitarist. Buddies with our friend Dennis there. Analog Archives. They came up together. Yeah, good people. Good record.
Do you have the 7-inch on Gray?
I don't have the 7-inch.
That thing was like a mortgage payment at one time.
And there's a series of 7 inches that they're all like the different, like there's a aces, there's a clubs, a spades, they're all the card suits or whatever they're called, of like different, all the big, I think like Death Threat was one of them, and The Promise, and I can't remember. There's a Suicide File and somebody else. Yeah, those were cool. 7 inches.
All right, Alan.
All right. Let's see. Time to talk about one of the big power metal releases from that year. Don't have a hard copy of this one, but that's what phones are for. Blind Guardian released their first album in about 4 years with Night at the Opera.
That's kind of a tell, too. If you don't own it, that's a tell what you think about it.
That's a tell. It is. Yep. It absolutely is. Up until this point, let's see. We're on Blind Guardian album number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think this is their 7th, if I'm counting right off the top of my head.
Follows up a massive one, too.
And follows up 7 massive ones is kind of the problem. This band had just been getting better and better and better. And at some point, the line has to come back down a little bit. It just does. And this, for me, was the album where that happened. This was the first time I got a Blind Guardian album, and I was a little disappointed by it. It's not a terrible album by any means. They didn't change directions radically. They hadn't done something weird that, made the album unlistenable. It's just, well, for starters, it's an extremely long album, even by their standards. It's 67, 68 minutes. So it takes you a while to get through it. They've long since abandoned all their speed metal elements at this point. The speed metal, losing the speed metal was a big turnoff to some folks, but the previous couple albums had worked because, Imaginations from the Other Side still had really interesting dynamic songs, really intricately put together, and a lot of variety on the album. And then Nightfall on Middle Earth worked because you had, this huge, Tolkien concept going throughout the entire album. So in a way, this is almost the first album they're doing with, very little speed metal in it, where there's no big thing going on to keep you interested. And it goes on for 67 minutes. So what you get, are a lot of 6+ minute songs that move at a very medium pace that, again, while not bad, they just don't stand out in the band's catalog extremely well. Even looking at the track list here, it's not that they're terrible. Precious Jerusalem, it's okay. Battlefield is okay. Under the Ice, I like. I think it's one of the better ones. Sadly Sings Destiny, also one of the better ones. The Maiden and the Minstrel at Night, I don't even remember what that sounds like. Wait for an Answer, has a good hook to it. The Soul Forged, I don't know what these songs sound like, and I can hum or sing along with almost every song off the first 7 albums. And I look at these songs, I'm just like, yeah, The Soul Forged, sure. They have a song called Age of False Innocence. I didn't even know that. They just didn't really stick. The closing track, is 14 minutes, and it is a good one. That one does have some very big, memorable moments, and then there was silence. But overall, it's just kind of a very average album. So yeah, it's not a F or anything like that. It's a C. It's just a very average album. But for a band that had, done so many classics, I mean, they owned the 1990s for me. They absolutely do. But yeah, coming into the 2000s, Blind Guardian's heyday was over. They've released other albums. Some are a bit better than this. Some are not. But A Night at the Opera, definitely marked the point where we were past peak Blind Guardian. And we've never really gotten back to that, which, it's got to happen sooner or later, like I said. But it was a bit of a disappointment that year. Obviously, folks were really hyped for it. You'd waited 4 years for a follow-up to Nightfall Middle-earth. And you just got this very long, very mid-paced album that just didn't have the huge standouts that you were used to having just, song after song after song, and every Blind Guardian album be an instant banger. And this album's just not. So, yeah, a little bit of a letdown. There are much better power metal albums in 2002. Folks have been mentioning some of them in the chat, and we'll get to showing some of those here in just a little bit. But yeah, I don't. There are several Blind Guardian albums I don't own. This is the first one chronologically that I do not own.
What does that mean?
It means this is the first one they released that I don't like enough to pay to own.
Say it in a sentence.
Chronologically, the albums before this are good, and the ones after this are hit or miss.
Oh, I don't think that's what that word means, but whatever. Anyway,
so
all right.
that's my sadly saying destiny tale for Blind Guardian in 2002. Hey, Melanie,
what's up, Mel? All righty then. Well, let's get into a classic death metal band that is. They're just lather, rinse, repeat, but in a good way, in every way, basically. You got Unholy Cult by Immolation. I always like this cover artwork. Interesting, different. Yeah, they're not doing anything different here. They're just getting a little bit more complex, I will say. They maintain brutality throughout their entire catalog. They remain sounding like Immolation for the entirety of their. They don't experiment. When they do, it turns out like albums like Atonement, which is just even more awesome. So saying this is just another Immolation album is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. It's kind of what you want at this point. And when you see that, it's the mark of quality. I don't know why they went with the font here. This is one we could have shown in our font.
We did.
Did we go over this one?
Yeah, well, not that album we talked about. The one before that, Failures for Gods, is the one where they switched the font.
Yep. But don't have much to say about Immolation other than they're awesome, amazing American death metal. Another one that I was going to pull and I forgot. Incantation also put out an album this year called Blasphemy. Which is actually a really, really good record too. I just forgot to grab it.
Yeah. But I've got it in my stack. We'll see if we get to it.
The institution death metal bands were still hard at it and doing the devil's work for sure.
Yeah, again, those kind of, and again, those were bands that, weren't necessarily like, the considered, top death metal bands in the early mid 90s, but they were the bands that did carry through. It kind of soldiered on through this period.
Yep. You know what else too? I've noticed from like a lot of the bands you guys have shown, like I know and name, to be honest with you, man, they love some computer generated logos, dude.
This arrow is rough.
Like some straight up, like that grave one you showed earlier. I was like, man, that's some like state.
Oh yeah, they definitely ran this through a 3D filter, bro.
yeah. There's some.
Yep.
Case in point that monstrosity record with the eggs.
Yeah. Millennium. Yeah.
Millennium. Yeah.
Yeah. That 18 record I showed earlier has like the worst. If you see it up close, it's like this looked like it was done in like a junior in high school's like computer art class, like layout.
All right, Jason, you are back.
All right, I hope I don't steal this one from you, Pat.
So you're already getting more subscribers. People are saying they're subscribing to you in the chat.
I like showing off stuff at the same time because I know we pulled the same shit. It's cool. Here we go.
There it is. There it is. So this is Tear It Up's Nothing to Nothing, New Jersey hardcore. The guitar player for this band moved to Boston and was in Cut the Shit.
Yeah,
at like the same time. This is just I'm hitting you with the no frills, guys. This is super basic. Fuck you in the face of the polished, smart guy hardcore that was coming out. There's feedback in this. There's songs that bleed into the other songs. This shit is just unbelievable. Tons of bands fit this style when this thing came out. It was 3-chord hardcore, emotional lyrics, but not the sad, swoopy, give me a hug like MTV like emo lyrics. Just like I hate my life and everyone around me.
Yeah, like I wanna redact myself, but also you.
Yeah. Like murder, suicide might happen.
Exactly.
But and a million songs. This thing's probably. I mean, I don't even remember how long. It's probably like 15 minutes. 20
It's
minutes.
great. It's so good. It's a big continuation of like that kind of Black Flag thing, but less like Greg Ginn, like pretentious
you got
shit.
the drummer with his
clearly
back tattoo. New Jersey dudes from other bands, dudes that went on to be in bands. Is this also on my
many bands?
I'm superposing with all the black vinyl tonight, guys. I'm sorry. I'm gonna get kicked out of the collectors club. But yeah, this band, this was a really interesting band for me because they were, living in the Northeast and Paul moving here and starting, Cut the Shit. I saw them from going to VFW halls. So like, I mean, the bigger venues that you can play as a band like this.
Yes, we have, Aaron. That was mentioned multiple times.
As they went. I saw them come from doing full tours to just coming up for gigs. Like this band really blew up and kind of bit the sound. A lot of people bit their sound. And again, $9.99, February 4th, 2002. This was put on the shelf. But this was huge when it came out, along with like the No Warning record. This was.
Yeah.
I think everyone had this in their record collection at the time. If you didn't, you were a dork. But that's Tear It Up's Nothing to Nothing to Nothing to Nothing to Nothing.
Yeah, they definitely borrowed a lot from that Black Flag, like ringing chord feedback and like, I don't know what I'm doing with my life. I'm just going crazy. Things are really hard right now.
Yeah. And then like, and then the drum part, then kids diving and fireworks and fun.
Yeah. What a time to be alive.
Yeah.
Alrighty, Patrick.
Me. All right. So I grabbed a bunch of Relapse stuff and I was like, well, these are compilations of stuff that's already been released. Like, I don't know if I should count these or not, but this definitely should be mentioned for better or for worse, because this is all unearthed stuff.
My time to hold up the same thing Pat's holding up.
The notorious documentary on Bobby Liebling's troubled life that continued well after that documentary. But I mean, you can't go wrong. It's so good that, what was it, Pellet Head or whoever from Relapse unearthed all this stuff. I mean, just 70s proto metal hard rock that is head and shoulders above a lot of stuff. And I love all the, obscure also ran proto doom stuff. I love Sir Lord Baltimore and all that stuff from back then, Bulbous Creation, all those bands. But Pentagram was so good, and it's so good that this and the other compilation of the 70s stuff got released, because it's really bridging the gap between Black Sabbath and like almost like folk rock in parts. It's just so well written and just catchy hard rock stuff. They were really doing the metal world a service by digging the stuff up. And I like the 80s stuff too. Like the Victor Griffin stuff is great as well, but it's just, man, what a songwriter. Shame about the other stuff, but what a songwriter.
All right, Alan.
Yeah, that's a great collection. And yeah, as somebody who had spent years digging that stuff up before that compilation came out, it was really nice, to see some of it put together in one place with better sound quality. And, the liner notes, though, are what really, really puts that package over the top. They thankfully did not ask Bobby to write them. They got one of the other guys in the band and his memory is just almost like photographic. He knows all of the details on everything they did back in the day. So you get a really nice, mechanical, in-depth look at everything they did. Also you had this compilation come out in 2002 as well for Pentagram. This one highlights the Victor years with tracks from the 3 albums they did in the 80s and early 90s.
Is that the only copy that you have?
It is, yeah. Marty just sent this to me recently. It's a promo copy, and I
I
had
was
just
digging
never.
through a promo box. I'm like, I know somebody that needs this. Maybe he already
You
has it.
absolutely do. I had never picked it up because I had the 3 albums. There weren't any exclusive tracks on this, so it was never one that is like, I don't really need to buy it because I have the tracks. But it is really cool to have it. So thank you very much. I'd never seen a promo copy of it before. So yeah, between the one that Pat just showed,
Yeah, that new
compiling
Obsessed was
a lot of the 70s material, and this compiling a lot of the 80s and early 90s material, this was a huge break for Pentagram to finally get a bit of recognition. All right, let's see. Next up, Jack Half a Prayer mentioned this one early on tonight, and yep, it's been in the stack waiting to come out. Primordial, Storm Before Calm. I always want to say Storm Before the Calm, but there's no the in there. This is the band's 4th album, and the previous album, the band had kind of started to break through a bit. Spirit the Earth Aflame got more press, got a little better circulation. It was my introduction to the band, and I love that album to this day. This one, for some reason, was a lot harder to find, even though they were still on Hammerheart. I don't know if something in the distribution network had changed. It may have also just been a problem locally. I'm trying to remember, but 2002, I was in Raleigh. School Kids Records was the place you went to get, any metal releases. And 2002 might have been about the time the main guy who had been stocking the metal section, his name was Daniel, really nice guy. But at some point, he just disappeared, which, again, moved on to, something bigger and better, I'm sure. But of course, after that, they weren't getting on the metal releases as consistently. And so that may be why this one just never showed up locally. Had to wait a long time to eventually get a copy of it. It's a very good album. It's a bit of a grower. It wasn't one that was immediately clicking with me, but not a very long album. And there's like one track in the middle somewhere that I don't like very much. There's an outro at the end. So you kind of get like, maybe there's like, 4 good songs, one song, and then there's an instrumental and an outro. So kind of an odd track list, but the full songs are very, very good. Wide range of styles. There's a little bit more of their black metal roots still showing through on this album. Primordial's first album, sounds very black metal. They came out of that scene, but they kind of grew out of it real quick. But they kind of kept the black tag for years, even though you don't hear a lot of black metal in the music. This is one of the few where there are some hints of the black metal, other than Alan just doing the occasional black metal scream, which that was always present. But this one, you actually hear a little bit more of it, mixed into the music as well. So, this one, I feel like it gets a bit overlooked because, again, a lot of people got introduced to the band with Spirit the Earth Aflame, or they got into the band on the album after this, The Gathering Wilderness, which I'm pretty sure that was a Metal Blade release. So, again, much bigger distribution. And a lot of people cite that as their favorite. So you kind of have this one as the in-between album that for some of us was kind of hard to find and just never quite had its day in the sun. But a really cool album. Primordial was definitely hitting their stride at this point. The first album, the black metal album, is really, it's rough around the edges. It has its charm. But by the time they got here, they had found their sound and knew what they were going to do moving forward. So that is my take on Primordial's Calm Before Storm.
All right.
I'll hop over here in the chat while Marty shows us our next entry.
Well, we got Sweden's Necrophobic with Blood Hymns. It's kind of funny. The early to mid 2000s stuff output by Necrophobic was all really good. Just not really talked about much. And what was this on? This was on Hammerheart Records. So it wasn't on a huge label. Yeah, this thing got wrecked in the great toilet debacle of 10 years ago now. Anyway, talk about poop water problems. Just really great melodic Swedish death metal. Earlier stuff, probably Nocturnal Silence is my favorite. Great death metal, and then they get a little bit more black metal with Parland before he moved on to be in Dark Funeral. But after he left, they continued on, and they just really stayed in their lane. And it seems like you hear a lot more about them now that they've reformed with the original singer and stuff. But this era is really good too. It's just really well produced, really well done. Swedish death metal with a little bit of black, a sprinkling here and there, but good album. 2002, Blood Hymns. Jason.
All right. Annihilation Time. Self-titled with the original. So Annihilation Time went on to release other records with this is the original one with the original singer. Think later Black Flag, Blast. I'm a surfer guy that likes punk and I do acid from California type stuff. Also on Dead Alive, which put out the Tear It Up record I just showed. Pulling this out, I mean, I'm really glad you picked an early year because I bought this when I saw them at the Cambridge Elks Lodge, probably in 2002. And I totally forgot I had it on vinyl. I know I had different versions of this. I have a CD version that's a promo with no case that I must have bought too. That's lying around here somewhere. But yeah, this a lot of people, the later stuff is great, but this record seems to sometimes fly under the radar because musically it's the same, but the vocal approach is completely different.
Isn't it a different singer altogether?
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
Okay, that's what I thought.
There's also some weird rumors he got kicked out, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. I don't want to, say anything. But yeah, I mean, it's got the Raymond Pettibone artwork on the front and back. And then a couple years ago, a label called It's Alive in California repressed the CD. And if you've ever ordered from It's Alive, they usually pack a ton of just stuff into their orders. The art there. But the one that's cool about this this version is it comes with like this giant fat book for like it's all literally about this record. Because I think it might be the singer. I think It's Alive might be the original singer label, or he might be something to do with it. But this is like a whole like just basically retrospective of like the first like tour, the first recording, there's tons of photos and flyers and all sorts of there's tons of flyers and stuff in here. And it has every single show they played up until I think he got kicked out. Yeah. Because the last show here is Sunday, November 3rd, 2002 at the OG's Women's Center with the Futures, Annihilation Time, Reagan SS, and The Problem. But it's got a show listing. It's got photos. It's got art. It's got a surfboard with Annihilation Time spray painted on it. But yeah, it's a really cool, buzzed out, but still punk and hardcore as fuck stuff. This is a classic record. I think, like I said, the other stuff, they went on to release, I think it's 3 more LPs and maybe a handful of 7-inches, and they, with a new singer that was, his vocal approach was different, but this stuff is super, super nihilistic. Like I said, later Black Flag, Blast, but with a 2002 lens on it.
Yeah, all their stuff is great. The stuff after that gets way more still Black Flag, Blast, California but mixed with a Blue Oyster Cult and
Thin Lizzy
influence.
Yeah,
it's so good. It's so good. And I feel like a lot of doom and stoner rock types don't even know about that band just because they played in the hardcore scene, and they later did that band Lecherous Gaze, which I haven't even heard. I don't know if I assume they're probably good too, but
in the back there's actually reviews of them here. I always loved Annihilation Time. I only got to see them once, and it reminded me of a Black Flag show in Hollywood. Fully out of control crowd, and the crowd trying to share the stage. Brought back memories from the early 80s. Larry White from Stalag 13.
There you go.
It's all dudes from nardcore bands saying how much they love it. But yeah, this is, again, I know I've been repeating the same shit over and over again. I think you can probably get this for cheap as fuck. I'm sure. Rules though.
That's Lecherous Gaze with a Gaze, by the way.
Yeah.
All right, Patrick.
All right. There's something a little different. I'm gonna throw a little wild card in here. Not really that heavy, not really hardcore or metal. Hot Snakes. What is this? Suicide Invoice. This is a record I downloaded and listened to a bunch when it came out. A lot of my friends that were musicians, that a lot of cool guys that had kind of moved on from hardcore a little bit were into this band. and it's good. It's if you're familiar with like maybe the more indie side of things, it's like guys from Drive Like Jehu. The drummer Mario Rubalcaba was like a former pro skater and was in a million bands. He was in that band Off with Keith Morris from the Circle Jerks, and he was
big fan of that band.
Yeah,
I like Off Bear and the Circle Jerks. Is that wrong to say? Is that a wrong thing to say?
That's okay.
I don't know why.
Their own. I think it depends on the Circle Jerks record. I mean, to me, you can't top Group Sex, but whatever. But this is cool. It's like upbeat, like post-punk, post-hardcore kind of stuff. People say it kind of reminds them of the Wipers, maybe a little bit. Kind of odd, off-kilter, not quite mathy, but kind of weird guitar riffs. It's not like super overdriven and distorted. It's got some bite to it, but it's interesting. It's still punkish, but it's very much its own thing. I never got into Drive Like Jehu. A lot of people love that band. This is the only thing I have by Hot Snakes, but I was just like kind of like combing through my Discogs looking at 2002, and I was like, oh yeah, that Hot Snakes record, Suicide Invoice, why not? So there you go.
All right, Alan.
All right. Well, we are fortunate that this band did have a 2002 release, and for this particular lineup on Metallurgy, couldn't be happier to have a Manowar album to talk about.
Yeah, I had them in the pile too.
Yes. Warriors of the World came out in 2002. This is very much their post 9/11 album. Lots of bands did it. I think Manowars is probably the best, at least the best of those kind of, neo-patriotic albums that I've heard from a heavy metal band. Manowar had not done a lot in recent years up to this point. So this one was kind of a surprise that it came out, and it is a little different from their earlier albums. Yeah, prior to this, you had Louder Than Hell came out in the mid 90s, Triumph of Steel in the early 90s. So you really only had 2 albums the previous decade. Then this one comes along, and yes, it's leaning, into, the patriotic vibes a lot, but it works really well for Manowar. I mean, they've always had, that whole big, hail and kill, conquer all, overcome kind of thing, which dovetails, with the, post 9/11 ideas and, sort of, rallying people. The thing that's different here is, the band does go in a little bit of what naysayers have always referred to as, a Disney metal phase. There are elements of this that are more soundtracky. Personally, I think it works really well for the band. Not everyone's going to agree. That's okay. But one problem they had with the previous album, Louder Than Hell, was that it was just another Manowar album. It's not that it was bad, but it's just like Manowar's done this exact same thing before. And of course they had done it better before. So why do I need to hear Louder Than Hell? Well, this album, they don't do the same thing they've done before. It's still Manowar at its core for sure. That all rhymed. Good for me. But yeah, they're doing things like, there's this short, operatic, section, which Eric Adams's voice is actually really, really good for that kind of little opera snippet. That's beautiful. It works great. Some people may be a little turned off by like, there's the American trilogy where they're doing, some things, but that really fits their overall vibes quite well. There, I got to use it too. I feel better now. So yeah, and there are a couple of just, flat out, barn burner tracks on here, like, House of Death and Hand of Doom. So it's not like it's completely devoid of any power or just, skull bashing heaviness. They've got that part worked in there too. So it's a very varied album. It's a lot more diverse than most Manowar albums are. And I like that. I like that they did something different. They mixed it up a lot and they delivered on it really, really well. So yes, if you just want to hear, Kings of Metal Part 4, this is not the right album. This is not at all what they're delivering here. But it still has all the key Manowar elements, but it shows them doing a lot of different things too. And I wish they had stayed on this, path, tried out some of these ideas again, expanded on some of them. Instead of just doing a short operatic piece, do a longer one. It's gorgeous. It works incredibly well for you here. But of course, they kind of went a different direction with the follow-up album, and we'll rant about that one when we get around to 2005 or 2006, whenever that thing came out. But yeah, Warriors of the World is for me the last essential Manowar album. I do hold this one in high enough regard. I think, yep, this one I definitely want on the shelf. The stuff that's come out since this one, there's one good one in there, but it has weird production or something. I haven't heard it in a while. Really, I can stop my Manowar catalog here and be pretty happy.
I gotta tell you, the simplicity of some of the stuff too, like the title track. I never thought that something so simple that when first time I heard that song, I'm like, oh my God, this is just bottom of the barrel, but it's so catchy. And the way it just, I end up loving that song. And every time I like see a video of it online or them playing it live, I watch the whole thing. I'm like, yep, great song.
You like have to.
Manowar's a little bit like Kiss in the regard of the, they don't need a song to be complicated or anything for it to be good. They understand how to write, a very simple, straightforward tune that just works.
Yep. All right, and I'm up next. Well, let's talk about another classic. Artist. Probably a lot of people don't consider this album a classic, but I really like it and was surprised. Abigail 2 by King Diamond.
People were just asking for this in the chat.
There is something about this record. I mean, he had the Graveyard out before this, which people just kind of brushed off. I like that record a lot. I thought that was a really creepy topic. And then, Voodoo. I'm not a big Voodoo fan. I don't like House of God, but this record, wow. It's just, I didn't think I needed to hear about the Abigail story again, but here we are, and it's fine. The song Spirits Alone is worth the whole price of admission. That song is so good. Good production, well done songs. I mean, perfect guitar solos. They just really can't. This is King Diamond Formula 101, but it's done right. I was interested by the story. I liked the record. I liked it right away. Where like the Graveyard, I had to work at it. I ended up loving that record, but King still had the special sauce on here. I don't know. Did you guys check that one out? I don't know if Jason and Patrick are big fans of King. Are you?
I'm more kind of a parallel here. It's like the Smiths and Morrissey for me. Like
okay.
I love the Smiths. I love Merciful Fate. Solo stuff from either of those guys. There's some tracks. There's a couple like the early albums. I don't know. I like the early King Diamond stuff. I like them and Fatal Portrait.
Yeah.
But I don't really go too much beyond the first two or three.
Merciful Fate played here, and I saw Long Knife at a bar the same night.
Yeah. I did not like that album when it came out, Marty. I got it when it came out, and I instantly hated it. Now, it grew on me later on. It's like, okay, I guess it's okay. But it's never been a favorite. But for some reason, it really rubbed me the wrong way when it first got it. I
see a lot of people say the same thing.
Wasn't into it, I guess.
And people love House of God, and I hate that record. I think that record is phoned in.
That one has never grown on me. That one is not particularly good. Yeah.
Now, with that, do you think that some people like some records more than others just because it's like their entry point?
Quite possible.
It could possibly be.
Because I know there's bands that have like there's certain records I love from bands that people will be like, that's the worst shit I've ever heard in my life, and I'll be like, well, that's the first one I heard, and it's kind of got like I got like that connection to it.
And then you go back and hear their old stuff, and they're really turned on by that. But still, you always have that special time where it's this record right here.
Yeah,
my gateway. Yeah.
It doesn't. I don't look at it the same way, but I still have a soft spot for it. My Iron Maiden record, the first one that I got into, I bought it at a drugstore, was No Prayer for the Dying, and people hate that record. And I can see the
songs on it.
I can see what they were doing, like as a return to form after like the synthesizer records or whatever. But you can listen to it now, and it's like, I mean, compared to Power Slave, like but I still have a soft spot for it. Bring your daughter to the slaughter.
It got its hooks in you, did it, Pat?
What's that? Yeah.
It got its hooks in you, did it?
It did. It did indeed.
All right, Jason.
All right, we're gonna get like non-hardcore now for a second. against me, reinventing Axl Rose. This, from what I just talked about, I think with this, I bet you there's people right now who spit on their computer or phone or TV where they're watching this. When this came out, you have to remember they were a anarchist, weird band from Florida, and not a band on Fat Records playing arenas and opening for like Blink 182. You know, they were a fucking punk band. This was a blind buy by me at Newbury Comics again. 5702, $8.99 LP. And this clicked with me. And I had a lot of friends at the time who fucking hated this. And they were like, what the fuck? Like, I don't know why you're listening to that shit. And for those who don't know, this was mostly acoustic, a little electric band from Florida they went on to be huge. All these songs are sloppy as fuck, out of tune, recorded real bad. But this thing just hit. This might be a thing with like we were just talking about, where some people I think if you got on the train when this came out, you have like a different understanding of what they became. I saw them a bunch of times. They came up to Massachusetts a lot. I was on tour with a band. We saw them at a VFW hall, and I believe it was in Kentucky. That was weird. Right around the time this was blowing up. But yeah, so reinventing Axl Rose against me. It's a good record. Pints of Guinness Make You Strong is a song I think that has gone on into infamy of. It's a bit like all this shit will be stuck in your head after listening to this. If it's not, I don't know. But it's a great record. Don't be nerds. You don't only have to listen to hardcore. Like
I tried, man. I couldn't do it.
I know. See, I know there's people who cannot. I don't. It's fine, but when I got that, I remember taking it home and driving. Like it was like like that scene in Freaks and Geeks. I dropped the needle, and it was just so different from everything I was listening to at the time. And I was like, man, I don't know. And then I listened to it, and then I'm like, no, I fucking love this record, and I will be unapologetic about it.
Yeah, like them and This Bike Is a Pipe Bomb and all all that stuff. Like I saw them in Maine, and they were really good live, actually. But like the closest I could get it into anything like that, it just the style of melodies was like one Avail record I really really liked, and that was it for me. So
yeah. All right, Pat.
Oh, so anyway,
I'll be right back. I gotta go to the bathroom.
So following up a really big important record of theirs, Dope Throne, 2002, Let Us Pray by Electric Wizard. Not reinventing the wheel of their sound with this. It's buzzed out, drugged out doom stuff. Maybe a little bit more cohesive than the previous one. That the second track, We the Undead, is like kind of upbeat, like dare I say almost kind of weirdly punkish in a certain kind of way. But I mean, if you like Electric Wizard, you know what you're signing up for with this and all the records around this. I think their sound changed a little bit later on, maybe like mid 2000s or late 2000s. But this is good. I mean, Dope Throne's the one I'm going to reach for. They had a tall order to follow up when they came out with this, but it's great. I think. Yeah, that's about it. That's all I got to say about that.
Yeah, a band that, like you said, solid enough album. Not necessarily the one I would reach for either, but there was a period where I liked it and played it quite a bit. Let's see here. Well, I guess that means I'm up next. My computer's acting a little glitchy. If I suddenly disappear, well, I'll be back as soon as I can. But let's see. Next one on my stack is this one, some more power metal time. The debut from Germany's Storm Warrior, simply titled Storm Warrior. I love the fact that, they've got, the Viking thing, but, dude is so throwing up the horns on the cover art. It's just like, yeah, sure, that works. Storm Warrior started out very much as just a, hey, why don't we make Walls of Jericho Part 2 kind of band? It is unadulterated early Halloween worship.
Rules. And
it's just all Viking themed instead of, songs about pinball machines and stuff like that. It's extremely well done. Yep. The vocals are, very similar to Kai Hansen's. Kai, knew about this, kind of helped the band out.
He recorded it, didn't he?
I don't remember all the details, but yeah,
He sang on it too on a couple songs.
He makes a guest appearance, yeah, and I think he had something to do with like the production or engineering on the album. I don't know which. Compared to later Storm Warriors, this one sounds definitely rougher. It's a little bit rawer sounding, but it works fine. And they kind of cleaned up their sound. They've gradually changed it a little from time to time. They've got more elements of like Running Wild and even Accept worked into some later albums. But yeah, early on, it is just flat out 100 miles per hour German speed metal. There's really not much to say. You've heard Walls of Jericho. This is Walls of Jericho Part 2, Vikings, Summer Vacation. That is the album in a nutshell. Great album, really good band. Their stuff is always annoyingly hard to get for a reasonable price. It's never had much distro in the US, so unfortunately you tend to pay a little bit more when you do stumble into their albums. But yeah, they've done about 6 or 7 studio albums. They're way overdue for another one. It's been probably 5 years since the last one. So Storm Warrior, because you're most certainly watching this, come on now. It's definitely time to hoist the sails and write some more songs about Odin and swords, because somehow the band just keeps doing that and it just keeps working. Love the band and hope they will have new material out in 2025.
Good stuff. All right. Well, this is a little maybe off the beaten track for me, but this is really good. EP by the Dillinger Escape Plan with Mike Patton on vocals. Irony is a Dead Scene. This thing is really freaking good. Mike Patton's a good screamer, of course, and this is the last thing by Dillinger I give a crap about. I don't know. The early stuff who was the singer early? Was it Dimitri? Was that his name?
Sounds right.
Calculating Infinity, all that. Yeah, all the early stuff. I seen them probably around 3 times. I think the last time I saw them was Worcester at the Palladium. It might have been that Metal Hardcore Fest. Thankfully, I was on the stage on the side because I knew the safe space to be. And being at that vantage point, watching what they were doing to the crowd. I mean, you hear tales of it until you see it. It's like, no, I mean, Chip, the PR guy, one of the PR guys from Relapse was right up front, and was it Ben, hit him in the head with the guitar. He had a fucking goose egg this big. It was like enormous. He's like, yeah, check this out. And I'm like, that looks awful. It looks like you got a boob on your head. But
boy, get that tit off your head.
Yeah. This is the way they attack the audience and still sound amazingly tight. And they're not playing like 3-chord punk. They're playing like it's just absolutely bonkers. And the way it all hit and the way it all exploded from the stage and the way they channeled it to the crowd is just, anyway, this is Mike Patton. Dimitri left and Mike Patton steps in for an EP. There are 4 songs. Come to Daddy, I'm assuming, is an Aphex Twin cover. I'm going to assume. I haven't listened to this in a while, but it's great. It's great. Busy, complex. Patton is all over the place on here and sounds lethal as always. And yeah, I figured some East Coast guys here would have been maybe showing it. I didn't know if it was going to make an appearance or not, so I figured I better pick it.
Did you ever see the footage of them when they played in that mall? So they got booked. It was like an FYE booked them for an appearance, and they're in like the middle of a mall, and there's people like above, like in the they come out and they start, and the singer head walks through the crowd to like the middle of the crowd, and they just start but it's in front of like a fucking Sears. It's the weirdest shit. You can see it's all over YouTube. Just look it up. It might be in the Mall of America, to be honest. Some record store booked him for an appearance, and every single weirdo metal hardcore punk person came out, and they just were like, well, we're gonna do it. And there's just like parents walking with kids, and you see them like kicking people in the face, and they're all swinging their guitars around, and there's grandmas eating ice cream in front of Dairy Queen, and Auntie Annie's pretzels are all over the place,
All right, Jason, you're up.
All right, Pat mentioned this band, so I'll pull this out because this is technically their last LP. It's Avail's Front Porch Stories. It's Fat Records. Yeah, Jason's on a stream. He's gonna have to show a Fat Records or Epitaph release, of course. But Yeah, this was their last record. I mean, it's not their best. I remember it being a very big deal when it was coming out, because this was a band a lot of my friends in the previous years. Like, I mean, 1996 to 2002 is, 6 years on a calendar, but to my brain, it's like 27 years. Like, I found so many bands and so many experience, and I remember this was like, we were like old grizzled vets, and we're like, Vale's putting out a new record, and I was like 19, but again, 11402 $9.99. But yeah, this was their last one. I saw them, I believe, on a tour for this, where they were supposed to play with that with another band I love called Propagandi, but Propagandi dropped off, so they played an extra long set at Lupo's down in Rhode Island, and it was awesome. This is, again, a record I appreciate because I remember it coming out. I remember the hype about it coming out. I remember all my friends waiting for it to come out. It was like, our like melodic hardcore band that we dug at the time. But yep, that's a Vale Front Porch Stories. Easily available. Check it out. Check out a Vale. It's not for everyone, but it's melodic hardcore, I would say. I think that's the easiest way to say it.
All right, Pat.
All right, since Jason hasn't showed it yet, if he, I don't know if he's got it pulled or not, but it might be another, conflicting ideas maybe. This is the second, there we go. Second Tragedy record, Vengeance. I don't know. It's a pejorative term nowadays. It's kind of a made up genre, the whole stadium crust thing. It's spearheaded by this band that took all these influences. It was members of a band called His Hero Is Gone, who are considerably more kind of dirgy and doomy. Short songs, but kind of like Amoebics inspired, early Neurosis inspired crust kind of stuff. Tragedy took that sound and injected a bunch of Japanese hardcore into it, a bunch of Scandinavian hardcore, made it blazingly fast. And they had, even though they were very, very orthodox, like DIY, like wouldn't play anything other than DIY shows, barely played clubs, that kind of thing. They were so pro gear and pro tude and dialed in and perfect sounding. I've seen them at least over a dozen times. Like, I was going to shows a lot when they were playing, and they're like just a really, really, really good live band. They managed to be kind of gloomy and epic and anthemic all at the same time, trading off vocals, gruff, deeper sounding guy, and kind of a more like hoarse shouted sort of dude. Like highly recommended to anybody that hasn't heard them, that likes anything in the realm of like punk and hardcore. But yeah, and this might be their best. Their self-titled debut is very, very good. The EP 7-inch that was between them is also quite good. And then they have a bunch of records after this that are good. They're decent, but the trilogy of those 3 releases is perfect.
Yeah. This thing was a total game changer. So many bands tried to bite this, and they just couldn't do it as good as they did it. Also, big props on self-released, tipped on sleeve, quality, no corners cut, fucking layout. And also $11.99 in 2002. This was a pricey record in 2002.
You couldn't press that with that tip on shit now for that. No way.
This is crazy. You should, like, Marty. I wish if you could see. This is like I feel like I'm holding like one of those 60s like will last forever cardboard, like really constructed sleeves. But yeah, I don't want to steal the great record. Go buy this.
All right, Alan.
All right, let's see. And hey to Kev, he's just checking in here.
What's up, Kev?
Good to have you on board. All right, so let's do another German power metal album. Running Wild also had a 2002 release with The Brotherhood. This is no Storm Warrior. It just isn't.
It's not really good Running Wild either.
No. By this point, Running Wild was way past their peak. And there are some things that are giveaways. This is not on Noise. It's after they had left and moved to Gun, and Gun just didn't have a very successful run with a lot of bands. The cover itself just looks pretty cheap. Very simple, thrown together kind of design.
Nope.
Oops.
Oh no.
His internet. He said he may have to restart his computer. We'll let him jump back in when he's ready. Get that off there, and I will go next. All right, so people in the chat were mentioning this, and it's been sitting in my stack. I'm getting into the black metal section of it. But To Embrace the Corpse's Bleeding by Judas Iscariot.
Mm.
This is a blast furnace record. Basically, what's his name? Dwayne Cryptic Winter was his sessions, his evil name, but it was Dwayne Timlin or something. I don't know, Dwayne something. Anyway, once Andrew or Akhenaten got rid of playing drums himself, he got this Cryptic Winter guy in. The band really tightened up a lot. I mean, I like Sloppy Judas Iscariot. It's good. It's just really catchy, memorable, and just a tribute to the old school black metal style. Dark Throne, of course. But this is just super fast. This was his last album. And yeah, quick and a lot of blast beats and a lot of short. It feels like the album goes by really quick because of it. Songs are well written, memorable, excellent stuff on the Red Stream label. It's too bad that stuff hasn't been reissued properly. Yep, totally sped up. All right, Jason.
All right, we're going to again go back up to our friends in the north, to Canada, for our war. If you're not now, another Deranged Records release on the so popular 10-inch, 10-inch, vinyl. This was a Canadian hardcore band, straight edge as fuck.
Really?
Yeah, you might. Yeah. I like how it says, "Our war. If you're not now, ... you're fucking dead." But yeah, this was just a straight edge hardcore band. The singer was this huge dude.
Terrifying.
He was older, been around forever. Put out a zine called Town of Hardcore, which was awesome. And this dude would drive down to Boston all the time. I would see him at shows so much, I thought he lived in fucking Boston. And I remember buying issues of Town of Hardcore out of his trunk in front of the Hardcore Stadium and all that stuff. But tongue-in-cheek maybe. Maybe not.
My favorite song title on that record, sorry to cut you off, I just have to mention it in case you don't, is 12 Steps on Your Neck.
Yeah. And then like the fucking the Dan O song about Dan O'Mahony.
Oh yeah, from 411 and No for an Answer. Yeah.
You talk shit, dead to us, don't you care? Turn and run, hard to swallow, on your own, no drink. Yeah, it's yeah. Whatever, man. It fucking rules.
The vocals on that drove me crazy. The vocals were like kind of high for such a gigantic, intimidating dude. The vocals were kind of like high pitched and squawky.
Yeah. Yeah. And he's also the funny thing is, so they have this band clearly the 12 Steps on Your Neck, the 50 years of broken pit of glass, and then you talk to this dude, and he was like a fucking monster. Like this guy was a big guy,
very size of a refrigerator.
Fucking nicest guy in the world.
Yeah.
Hey man, what's up, dude? I'm psyched to be done. They would drive to see shows in Boston all the time from Toronto. They would drive from Toronto to Boston, see a show at a VFW hall, sell zines, and then drive back to Toronto.
Yeah.
But yeah, so and then this is definitely a time and place record. I don't think a lot of your people watching will want to check out Our War.
I know a lot of people in the chat are psyched the stuff you guys are showing, so that's cool.
Yeah.
I knew they would be. It's nice to have variety.
Mike Uncommon Peller, Mike Woodford, who probably knew them because he's from Ontario, had the demo, and he was just like, here, and sent it to me, and like the demo's really, really good.
Is it? Yeah, I've never heard it.
I hate to be that guy.
Yeah. But that fucking cover art, dude. The fucking X's on the hands. The fucking.
I mean, the cover art is the best part about that, clearly. That and the song titled 12 Steps on Your Neck.
Yeah.
Okay. Speaking of 12 steps, here's the second Down record. Down to A Bustle in Your Hedgerow. Clearly reference to the Led Zeppelin lyric that's about that time of the month. That's what that bustle in the hedgerow thing? I don't know. Ask ask Robert Plant about that. But Down was a band that it took me a long time to come around to. Like anything kind of like Southern rock tinged, I could not fucking stand until 2010, 2011. Like I have a COC tattoo on my elbow and I loved everything up to Blind and it just cut off there. And then I started working with these kids at a Newberry Comics that were really into all the stuff after that and Deliverance and all that stuff. And I was like, you know what? This is awesome. I started really liking that stuff. I know a lot of people don't, there's some people that it seems like not a lot of people like both eras of COC. I am one of those people that likes almost everything except for America's Volume Dealer. This is a NOLA super group. I'm sure everybody in the chat knows that. The first one, the NOLA record, is fantastic. This is good. I like it a fair amount. Honestly, it's pretty new to me. I need to spend more time with it. But I mean, the sum of its parts, I think I like all the bands except for I could take or leave like most stuff that Phil Anselmo does. Crowbar, COC, I Hate God. I think I well more appreciate those bands than their super group. But this is great. It's very jammy. It's definitely like, hey man, I got a riff. Hey dude, I got a riff. Check out this riff. Which I'm not mad at that. That's cool, But yeah, Down 2. The third one is great too. So, yep.
Well, we see Alan, but I don't think Alan is back. Are you back, Alan?
I think I'm back.
Your pictures froze. Yep. Well, I will jump in here again. All right. French black metal. This is so good. This is Light of a Dead Star by Nahima. Underground, well-produced black metal. You got a bit of Dark Throne vibe, but they're a lot more musical than that. But it's in the same, black and white cover, corpse painted, guy in a cape with an upside down cross. I think someone from Himmelbjorg was in this band as well. But this is an exceptional black metal record from, you think of France when it comes to black metal, you think of the LLN stuff, the Vlad Tepes, the Mutilation, Belketre, Torgeist, all that stuff. These guys can play. Nahima, Nehemah. Wade. But very well done. All three of their records are really good. This is my favorite of the three. It's the debut and just really solid. Check it out. It was recently reissued as a LP box set with a fourth record of demos, I believe. I'm sure you can find it on Discogs for hundreds of dollars. So if you've got the itch to burn some money for some good French black metal, that is one to definitely check out. Yep. Hollow Man knows what's up. All right. Alan, we were talking about Running Wild.
Yes, we were. Yeah, my computer's just was acting up, but I let Marty know several minutes ago it was probably going to do that, but I think everything's restarted now. The Running Wild album, The Brotherhood, you can kind of just tell by looking at it, this is not going to be prime Running Wild, and it's not. They've really gave up on their more speed metal element around this time and just started doing songs that were much more mid-paced and kind of chunkier sounding. It's almost like for some reason they suddenly decided like they needed to have more of an Accept vibe, which makes no sense for a band this veteran and with a sound that was so established. You get songs that some of these are okay, like Crossfire. It's just this very just kind of riffing instead of like the really fast melodic, almost tremolo kind of style that they were so known for. And what's really weird is right in the middle of the bloody album, track 5, Siberian Winter, it's an instrumental, but it sounds exactly like it could have come off any of the previous 10 albums. It's everything you want Running Wild to do. It's that fast, flurrying style of riffage. It's the best song on the album by a mile, and it's an instrumental, and it's the only song on the whole album where they really play in that style. So it's kind of weird that it's almost like they were showing you, we could play that way if we wanted to still, but We're going to give you songs like Detonator instead. And the chorus literally goes, detonator, detonator. It's like, the fuck you trying to do, Ralph? This is just not working. Even the obligatory pirate song, it's literally called Pirate Song, for fuck's sake. This is a band that typically, would dig up, some historical stuff. They do songs on Soleil Royale and, different historical, ships and stuff. And this one literally is just called Pirate Song. And the chorus is literally just bouncing along to the pirate song. It sounds like something out of a Tim Burton movie almost. Just, this, very kind of sappy, bouncy kind of thing. So, yeah, it just goes to, even, Running Wild, as fantastic as they were, they had lost their way and steered way off course in the early 2000s. I can't complain too much. They did something like 11 albums in a row from 1984 to 1998 that are marvelous. But you run into some real choppy waters by this point in the Running Wild catalog. So yeah, give this one a pass unless you're just a real sick little monkey like me.
Did we do a ranking on Running Wild? We did, didn't we?
No, I have on my channel,
okay.
but we have not done Running Wild on Metallurgy.
Carbon Stars, I thought we did. Carbon Stars, go check out Let's Talk Metal. Alan does a dive into their catalog. So and
it's been a while. You'll have to dig back a ways. It's been a couple of years, but yeah, I've got a good rundown on their catalog. Wheaton and Marty, what we did a like one of those old Tuesday night, quick blast videos on the most recent Running Wild studio album when that came out.
All right, and that's good too. But
that one's up. They are back on course. The recent albums they're not going to rival the great albums of old, but they are at least making decent albums again.
Right on. Why don't you go another one, Alan, since you got skipped and then run?
Absolutely. We can do that. Haven't really shown much obscure stuff tonight. So for the power metal fans like William out there in the chat, if you want a more obscure one that maybe you don't know, that sounds a hell of a lot better than that Running Wild album. Band from Spain called Darkmoor put out this album called The Gate of Oblivion. Now, I don't have a hard copy of this, but only because they're like really expensive and hard to get. It's like a $40 CD at this point. Spanish power metal. It sounds to me, I always tend to think the band is French. They sound like some of the French power metal bands like Heavenly, but it's not as fancy and flourishing as something like a Rhapsody, but it's not that far removed from it either. It's got a lot of the keyboard and synth layers. They're building these big vertical bombastic sounding epics. Darkmoor had a female vocalist on these early albums. This is their third. They had a female vocalist. She was quite good. Worked really well for their style of music. I think after this album, they kicked her out of the band and got a male vocalist, and they never sounded right after that. They went from being like, that's a pretty cool band doing a neat thing, to you sound like every generic power metal band I'm not interested in. So bad move on their part.
There's a promo version of that CD up on eBay right now. Someone's asking $80 for it. It looks like it was slid down the street.
Yep. You'll see it on Discogs from time to time. It's not like it's the hardest CD to find, but it's always like 30, 40, $50. I think Sentinel Steel had a copy of it recently, but it was like, $38 or something, which was fair for it, but I just don't want to pay that much for it. It really solid power metal. The band, they've stuck around for a long time and made a bunch of albums, but they just got really mediocre, at least the ones I heard after this. I didn't keep up with the band for all that long, but I would check in here and there, and nothing impressed me after the lineup change. But the one before this is pretty good too. It's got more of a purple color scheme. The art style is very similar. It's that, if this isn't Andreas Marschall artwork, I'd be very surprised, because it's his style with everything kind of outlined in white with the colors. I'll check while we move on and add it in the chat. But yeah, if you find one of the early Darkmoor albums for a decent price, and you like European power metal, definitely one to check up. If nothing else, you'll be able to trade it or flip it very easily, because folks are still looking for it these days.
All right. I just went. So, Jason.
All right. Speaking of Pat, when he's talking about Down, I was Down story related to this band, but I'm gonna do the Bones Brigade 7-inch, which I happen to have a bunch of. These are the releases I did for my birthday party a million years ago.
I got one.
Yeah.
Everyone got one.
Yeah. This is all I got left.
You get a Bones Brigade.
Yeah, everyone
you
gets a Bones Brigade 7-inch.
You
Look
are
under
the
your
Oprah
seat.
Winfrey of that record.
Look under your seat. What is it? 3 Bones Brigade 7-inches for everyone. I don't even know. My original's in a box and under a box that's on under another box. But this is a cover I did for because I repressed this for their first tour they did. First US tour they did.
You better get on this, Jason. Right here, Aaron the Metal Theologian. I didn't get one.
I'll send you one.
Yeah, what the hell?
I'll put your address in the chat. I'll mail it tomorrow. I got to work tomorrow. But yeah, so it's just like black vinyl. These are like I've had these in a closet forever. I still have about I think 60 more of these. Little thank you list. But this was like these are my homies, my friends. The singer on this record is the singer from, again, it's all in a circle. Same for Cut the Shit at the same time. There was a little bit of beef because this band got a little bit more popular than this band did. This band was around first. I roadied for this band. I hung out. I went to high school with half the band. They say they're from Boston. They're from the South Shore. Skate rock mixed with punk and hardcore is the best way to describe it.
Yeah.
Blake can play a guitar. I mean,
That dude can. That's a shredder right there.
yeah, and he just likes to throw in as much shred as he can physically throw in shred if he can shred a throw in.
He was in some other band, like he was in Ramming Speed too.
Yep.
I'm wonering. I'm trying to remember what else he's been. He's been in a lot of bands.
Yeah. But also started off as a straight edge hardcore kid. I don't think he wants to admit that nowadays. But yeah, Bones Brigade. This came out in 2002. Again, another cheapo thing you can find. I'll mail one out to Aaron. These are my last 4. But yeah, when I was on tour with them, everyone in the band was fighting with each other, and I was the roadie, so I was just kind of sitting there being like, "Man, I'm really like this is a really fucking uncomfortable situation." And Blake just goes, "Anyone want to listen to Down?" And it it was not the icebreaker he thought he was.
Who'd have thought?
Yeah, it's skate rock mixed with punk with above average guitar.
Yeah,
playing on it for sure. Not to blow the wind, but
the early stuff with Andrew singing is like almost crossover, and then they got a new singer who sounded a little bit more gruff, like almost like a John Brannon kind of thing.
Yeah.
Not really crossover on that, but yeah, I have like all their stuff. They're fantastic.
I mean, clench my fist, slip my wrist. Yeah, but yeah, so great stuff. And Aaron, I'll send you one. So now I have 3 left.
All right, Patrick.
All right. Grab this. Oh boy, I need a new case for this bad boy. Vomitory Blood Rapture. Vomitory from Sweden.
Good band.
I think they get kind of like wrapped in with like brutal. What's that?
They kind of get forgotten too. They don't
Yeah,
really in the conversation much.
I don't know. I mean, they're good. I like it because they have some of the trappings of the brutal stuff, like the nonstop speed, kind of the same production qualities, but there's something kind of inherently Swedish too. There's a little bit of like their riffs sometimes get kind of simplistic and like through all the brutality, it's like, oh, that's kind of dischargey, kind of punkish almost. Very gory, I don't know. I feel like the kind of touches of like Swedish stuff are still present, even though it's, very well produced, like thick, brutal death metal stuff. Not too much else to say than that. I like their earlier records a little bit better. This might be their first one on Metal Blade. I'm not sure, but all the records are relatively samey and they're all decent. If you like this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Good stuff. Ellen.
All right. Let's see. Yeah. My favorite band had an album in 2002. It's not one that gets heralded very much, but I like it. It's Riot's Through the Storm. This one kind of marked a little bit of an end of an era for them. They had, seen a good uptick in popularity, being associated with Metal Blade through the mid and late 90s. Had some really strong albums come out. This is when Mike DeMeo's doing vocals for them. And this is the last of that run of albums. And for whatever reason, it just didn't seem to get the same hype or attention that the previous couple of albums had. Like, Inishmore, Sons of Society, those albums had really good distribution, got really positive reviews. Through the Storm came out and people just didn't seem to care a whole lot for some reason. And I never was really sure why, because it's a very, very solid Riot album. Side A in particular, the first 5 to 6 tracks are fantastic. They're as good as anything else they had done during this phase of the band. Turn the Tables, Lost Inside This World, Chains, Through the Storm. They just, they have all that classic Mike DeMeo sound. And this style of metal was still relatively popular around this time. You had other bands popping up, within a few years, like, Master Plan, that were doing well with this same kind of delivery. The only thing that throws the album off a little bit, it does end in a quirky way. You've got let's see, for the last 3 tracks, you have a cover of UFO's Only You Can Rock Me, which is, they do a decent job covering it, but it's a cover, whatever. But it's followed by 2 instrumentals, Isle of Shadows, and then the closer is a cover of George Harrison, Here Comes the Sun, which just feels like a really weird way to end your album. Cover song, instrumental, and a cover of a Beatles instrumental delivery. So it's just, the album winds down in an odd fashion. My understanding is the whole deal with Here Comes the Sun being tacked on the end. This, while the band was recording it, is when George Harrison passed away. And he was a huge influence on Mark Reale. He's basically the reason Mark, picked up a guitar and, learned to play as a kid. And so I think it was kind of probably a last second decision to, add this into the track list as kind of a tribute to George, since the news had broken while they were recording the album. But it does just make for a very odd way. Like, you got all these great tracks on the first half of the album, a couple in the middle are okay. And then it's just like cover, instrumental, done. So a strange track list for sure, but a very good Riot album. If you like the other DeMeo era albums from Riot and you just overlooked this one, like most of Planet Earth did, it is a really strong album. It's worth picking up. So yeah, another good album from 2002. If we had to pick favorites from the year, this one would be pretty high for me. I don't know if it's my album of the year or not, but it is another classic Riot album, in my opinion.
All right. Well, we're hitting about the 3-hour mark. I can go probably a couple more. I can double up on these.
Yeah,
I can want to do 2 more rounds and call it.
Yeah, so where we're at in 2 rounds.
That's pretty much where I'm at.
Okay.
Yep, sounds about right.
All right. Well, I'm going to do 2. Well, 1, 2. Yeah, I'll do 3 here. Okay. Black metal. Tolka from Norway, the second album. Don't ask me to say it. It's long in Norwegian. But I always really, really liked this band. The fact that a lot of Norwegian black metal started getting really strange. Bands would either turn into turbo death metal or weird electronic or black and roll stuff. This band always kind of stayed, it was a guy, but he put a band around him to tour and stuff. But he would always stay true to the Norwegian black metal sound. This is the second album, a bit more adventurous. You got some mouth harp on here, which is a little comical when it comes in, and some banjo drops on this too, which for this style is weird, but it somehow worked. Always catchy, always good, true to the spirit of black metal. This band, I think, is so overrated, but the first couple albums are pretty good. The Gate Through Bloodstained Mirrors was an early one. This is Nocturnal Poisoning by Zassler, came out in 2002.
Mm-hmm.
This is just very DSBM, sad bastard black metal. Sounds very much similar to A Gate Through Bloodstained Mirrors. In fact, he was really good at kind of doing the same thing over and over again. So that's why you think he's just kind of a one-trick pony. But he eventually changed his sound to be all acoustic. Kind of lost interest after that. And OG Press of Terror Propaganda by Kraft from Sweden. This is solid Swedish black metal. Good in the Dark Throne vein. pretty cool stuff. And I can go. Yeah, I can do 2 more runs.
Yeah.
Jason.
Yeah. Oh, just a quick
Oh,
mention on the Zasther, Marty. That's something we hadn't talked much about tonight, but the early 2000s are when American black metal started to make a lot more of a name for itself. You started to have bands that were taken a lot more seriously than the bands were in the mid and late 90s with Zasther, Leviathan's active by this time and getting some notoriety and stuff. So yeah, it's a scene we haven't touched on much, but this was it's that kind of weird period where those bands aren't quite there, but they're starting to get on the radar. And
Krieg put something out this year too.
Yep. Krieg had a release in 2002. I think Judas Iscariot did. I'm not certain. But yeah, you're building to that point where U.S. black metal is kind of taken seriously as its own entity and not just considered like a really bad knockoff of what was going on in Scandinavia. So yeah, I'm glad you remembered to do Zasther. I forgot about that one.
I think it's a band that I liked for a hot minute when it came out, and I would start buying the stuff and the splits with Leviathan and all this shit, but I just never circled back around to it. It seemed very two-dimensional to me. But
and you're right. I mean, he just kind of did the same thing every time. So once you heard 1 or 2 albums, you were never hearing anything too vastly different until he went full country and all that stuff.
Yeah. All right.
But yeah, sorry to interrupt.
No, fine, all good. Jason.
All right, I'm going to do 2 tapes right here because they're both short. The first one is a local band called Say Goodbye. South Shore guys. They toured around. They put out a couple 7 inches and an LP. But yeah. Well, that's the thing. This band. First of all, I love how they just like miscut. Like someone must have fucked up the measurements when they were cutting their demo cover because it doesn't.
Love it.
Oh, that's the worst. After you do a bunch too, you're like, oh no.
And it's nice too. It's not like this is nice cut. Like nothing's cut off. They must have someone must have done the measurements wrong. But yeah, so this band was like it's a hardcore band from the South Shore. But the thing about this band is that the bass player went on to be in Mind Eraser and a bunch of other bands, and this was recorded by Trevor, who's in a million other bands. So
Trevor Vaughn.
Yeah, he sings for Wound Man right now, but he's in a lot of bands.
Does that Warstone project's really good grindcore?
Yeah, but this is all him. Like, and the thing about this band that was like real that connected with me a lot is like we're all the same age. Like we were literally all 18, 19 when this stuff came out. Like booking tour, like they booked tours, they put in the work and had a little bit of a following. I never got as big as they should have, but this is the Say Goodbye demo, and then we're gonna get in an airplane and the Concorde and fly to California real quick for the Knife Fight demo.
Yeah.
So this was again, like I explained earlier in the stream. If you guys are still hanging around, hardcore took a weird, like pro sound, like amazing core, like run for a couple years, and then stuff like this came out to basically just be like, nope. We are going to be simple 3-chord hardcore bands that sound like Negative Reproach, super basic. This is hand cut because it's all uneven. So this is real demo core right here, guys. They put out they put out actual stuff and toured, but just to give you an idea of like what this is. So this is a 5-song demo, right? The first song is 46 seconds. The second song's 36. The third is 25. The fourth is 35 seconds. And then the fifth bangs in at a long 1:45. And they used a 90-minute tape.
Probably all they had. Yeah.
So, and back in the day, you guys remember like these, these grew on trees.
Yeah.
So, but like, they used a 90-minute tape for about 5 minutes, maybe not even. I'm gonna have to re-listen to this because I wonder if there's other shit on this because that used to happen all the time. Like they'll just throw like just like a mix, and I don't only think it's only on one side. I don't think the program's repeated. But
grab some tape from his sister. It's probably got Tiffany on there.
Yeah, yeah. But this is also dudes that were in bands before this and went on to be in bands after this. But if you guys are ever like, looking for like what would be considered like just stripped down basic hardcore, like it doesn't get more basic than a band like Knife Fight at all. Like and it rules too. It's great.
Really good.
But it's just super. they're not reinventing the wheel at all, which was kind of needed at the time. So
Yeah.
so say goodbye and Knife Fight.
It was the rebirth of hardcore pride, as it were.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
No, I mean,
here.
for me, I look back on it and like the stuff I grew up with, like seeing bands like Unbroken and Bloodlet, like that stuff was amazing. But I got that like Born Too Late kind of feeling.
Yeah.
Where like I was like, I missed out on all the stuff that sounded like Negative Approach. And then like, I don't know, by the time I hit my mid-20s, I'm like, everybody sounds like Negative Approach.
Yeah, for
Pretty
sure.
cool. And then of course it kind of, got oversaturated. But the first couple bands that came back and started doing that, like Tear It Up, and those guys, like, oh, it was amazing. It was so fun to see.
Yeah, I think the first time I saw Knife Fight, they were on tour with a previous band. I found the 7-inch a minute ago, but Annihilation Time, they were on tour together. And I saw them out in like Greenfield, Mass. What's up, Colin? That's my buddy Colin there. I saw them out in Greenfield, Massachusetts at like this giant like town hall that had like a stage that probably did plays at one point. And I just remember them playing, and it was just a circle pit. The whole place was like 200 kids just in a circle pit, and they played for 15 minutes and it fucking ruled.
Yep.
All right, Patrick.
All right. So 3, I figured I'd grab a couple of these that I kind of took out of the pile because they're compilations of stuff that had been previously released. But whatever. It's the end of the stream. What are you going to do? And also, a couple of these, I wouldn't have really heard these bands if Relapse didn't put them together for their underground series. So we got the Hemdale compilation here. Clevo, Death Grind, early Brutal Death stuff. Gotta love the Fulci zombie cuddling with a kitten on the cover. Just nonstop blasting, dual vocal grind death stuff. Did a split with Exit 13. Awesome stuff from Ohio. 2 CD Human Remains compilation. What is it called? Where Were You When? It's got everything Human Remains did. Obviously, very influential band on tons of bands like Dillinger and lots of stuff that came after. Dave Whitty famously played drums, getting technical death metal stuff.
I'm sorry, I didn't have you blown up. I was looking at something else.
And then there's a bunch of like 3 or 4 of these that came out for different countries around this time. The Assault series. This is the Swedish Assault. There's a Japanese one, a Polish one, and maybe another one I'm not remembering. Some heavy hitters on here. Birdflesh and Dysphere are on here. Genocide SS and Gadget and the lesser known Sayadina and Assel, however that's pronounced, Swedish. Mostly grind. I mean, Genocide SS is kind of D-beat-ish, rock and roll-ish kind of stuff. Dysphere, awesome, like heavy D-beat metallic stuff from Sweden. I'm not sure if Tampa Lindberg is on these or not. I think he is. He's on this, but yeah, great, killer stuff.
All right,
Relapse.
Alan. Relapse. Back in the day, what a label.
All right, last few to mention then here.
Polish.
So wrapping up, I'll mention 3 final ones also. This band is not to everyone's liking, but at the time they were a huge deal and doing some good albums at the point. Nightwish did Century Child. This was album number 4, 2, 3, 4. Pretty sure this is the 4th one. Everyone knows what Nightwish sounds like at this point. This is when Tarja Turunen was still fronting the band. And for me, this kind of period was definitely their peak. They, had found their sound. They, nailed it down. You had other bands starting to come out of the woodwork copying them, but the scene wasn't so completely bloated with Nightwish clones yet that you could still appreciate the Nightwish albums themselves. Nightwish would do one more album with Tarja after this one, which is also very good. After she left, they've had very good vocalists, but I really don't feel like they've put out a very impressive album since then. Some of the albums have been okay, but it almost feels like every album gets a little bit weaker than the previous one. The album they put out this year, I have absolutely no use for. I've played it twice, and I feel like they really don't have any direction, despite having a really, really good vocalist. She's just going to waste in that band at this point. But yeah, stuff around the Century Child period is really good. we need to mention Doomsword. Their second album came out, Resound the Horn. It's really dark artwork. It's not just a bad picture. But this is an Italian band that is very much what we would call epic metal. I like Doomsword. I think they did better albums later. A lot of people like this one the most. For me, it's just a little on the slow side. They really stick to a very kind of slow trot to the music, but it's got, all the kind of bombast and Viking epicness you could want. I feel like they just did more dynamic albums later on, but yeah, they were on the map. And last but not least, German black metal band that both Marty and I have always liked, Morrigan, did their second album, Enter the Sea of Flames.
It's a great album, yeah.
It is, yep. And anyone not familiar with Morgan, it's Bathory worship. Their gimmick, as it is, they don't just copy early Bathory, and they don't just copy later Bathory. They actually do both. You'll have tracks on here that sound like they're from the first 2 or 3 Bathory albums, and then you'll also have tracks that sound like they are off of Hammerheart or Twilight of the Gods era Bathory. And they actually do both styles fairly well. Which I always thought worked in their favor. It's not that they're just doing one mode or the other. They figured out how to copy both sounds. So, yep, if you need some more Bathory-like material in your life, Morgan's a band that never got a ton of attention, but they did some very, very good albums. So, yep, you can check that one out as well. And that is the end of my stack for 2002.
Well, if this is the last round, then I'm going to shoot 4 at you. Or wait, there's one more after this, right? No.
I don't know. I thought everybody was wrapping up this round. That's why I did 3.
I have one thing left.
Okay,
I can dig up one last thing, too.
Okay, we'll go one more. One more.
Fair enough.
After this. Okay. Well, I'll show these two. Hollow Man was calling for it repeatedly in the chat, so here's Forefathers, Engla Toximier. I don't know. They're English brothers, twin brothers. They look like they're twins. They put out a good run of albums, very melodic, sort of black metal with folk elements to it. I don't know. I really like this band. Really catchy. Clean vocals mixed with grim vocals. It sounds on paper to be pretty standard, but music's really well done. This was mentioned in the chat earlier this evening as well. Agatus, the Weaving Fates. Yeah, Greek blackish metal, very melodic. The first song on here, wow, it's an amazing guitar melody line that comes in. It just along with a blast beat that just sells this album really well. The whole thing's really good. It's been a while since I've spun this, to be honest with you, but very melodic Greek blackish metal. No drum machine here. Sounds like a real deal. And I got one more round. Jason.
All right. Since we're nearing the end, this is an old joke that goes back. Mephistopheles.
You found that record finally.
Yeah, this actually did come out in 2002. I'm just messing with you.
I know. Classic.
I'm going to close out with we're back in Canada again. DFA, Destined for Assimilation, on Ugly Pop. This is a straight up crossover record, early 2000s hardcore crossover record. I mean, there's no qualms about what they were doing. They just wanted to play fast as fuck with riffs. I like this, but there's another record of theirs that is semi more popular with a guy like looking around a corner to like a cop, I believe. I think this one's a little bit better, and that could just be me being a fucking dick, but
I have their discography on CD, and it's like not even 40 minutes.
Yeah. These are just super. Yeah, and this band I think was one of those bands for I don't know what for whatever reason they seem to like just not really like pop off as much as they should have. I mean, I think we're a little bit fortunate being in where I am. They played Massachusetts semi regularly. I probably saw them 3 or 4 times, and but yeah, there's just a Canadian crossover hardcore band, kind of a forgotten release.
Yeah.
again, following the Jason thread of the whole evening, something you can probably find for pennies on the dollar. But
They're really good.
Yeah, it's good. DFA.
I saw them with Damage Deposit in a record store in Buffalo, and I remember like really hating them just because their guitarist was wearing flip-flops. Like, what the fuck are you doing? But like then I heard the recorded output and I was like, I guess he can wear the flip-flops.
Yeah, I saw him at that I can't remember the name of it now because I'm just tired. That Chinese food restaurant that used to do shows at it.
All Asia Cafe.
Yeah, All Asia Cafe. The first time I saw him there, the owner got mad because people were moshing.
Yeah. I saw the Wretched Ones there. Nothing like an oi show at a Chinese restaurant.
And I saw the A-Team there probably like 3 times. So just going throughout the evening. Yeah.
All right, Pat.
All right. Lightning round. I've just got 3 here that are all kind of disparate sound wise. First up, we got Place of Skulls, Nailed.
Oh yeah,
Victor Griffin from Pentagram. This came out on Southern Lord. Really good. He's a what's the fun?
Oh,
there's
Eric,
no way to
successfully look hard while wearing flip-flops.
I believe he was also wearing really short cutoff jean shorts too. Anyways,
that's a look.
That's a dynamic duo there.
I'm thrown off from talking about this now. It's really good Doom though. If you like Victor Griffin's riffs, you're not going to go wrong with it. There's another record with Wino singing that is really, really good. I recommend that over this, but this is still great. The last Guyana Punchline record, GPL, Direct Action. This is like kind of like this kind of discordant, screamy, kind of hardcore stuff. They had kind of more of they have keyboards on this, and it's a little bit more towards like a no wave influence or strong kind of almost weird like Devo influence on this, which is cool. Cool band from South Carolina.
Devo are a cool band. They just are.
Oh,
They're
for
a great
sure.
Band.
Yeah, this is like weird, like Devo influenced screamo grind or something like that. But guys that were from a band called Inhumanity before that, and then finally on Slap a Ham, I believe these guys were from Philly. Otophobia. Nothing to write home about if you're looking for like, anything really that stands out with grindcore, but very solid workman like grind power violence kind of stuff. It's on Slap a Ham. Might have been one of the last releases on Slap a Ham because I don't think they lasted too much longer into the 2000s, but legendary power violence label. This leans more towards grind, but it's still like very firmly rooted in punk. It's not like death metal kind of grind. So yeah, that's it. That's all I got.
All right, Ellen.
All right, let's see. Some real quick ones. Marty mentioned this earlier, but yeah, Incantation was still toiling away with Blasphemy. It's a solid Incantation album. I never reach for it though. To be honest, I'm almost always going to reach for some other Incantation album before I reach for this one. There's nothing wrong with it. It just feels like, again, there's a lot of Incantation albums at this point. But when you are like, the 5th best Incantation album, there's a lot of things that are ahead of you in the line. But
I did listen to that today to kind of brush up on it, and like I enjoyed it. I like what's his name, Mike Saez, the guy who's like the session vocalist. He's from that band Death Rune from New York.
He was on Infernal Storm earlier, and he got stabbed or something and left the band. Yeah.
He's also on this live record too, which is really good. Which came out in 2002 as well. This
okay. I haven't heard that one.
It's good. It's like professionally well recorded with a mobile studio and stuff.
Nice.
But I like his vocal approach, and it feels like that record's a little bit brighter kind of production and like a little bit more straightforward, which I appreciate. But I don't know, if I'm going to be grabbing Incantation, it's going to be the first 2 albums really, or any of their stuff leading up to that. I mean, that's just me, but
yeah, that's kind of the problem. Their whole discography lives in the shadow of the first 2 to 3 albums, even though a lot of their albums are very, very good.
Yeah.
Let's see what else we got here. One more quick blast of German power metal. Avantasia did their 2nd album, The Metal Opera Part 2. Yeah, and again, this was just more of the same. More kind of troll wizard looking guys. But I'm pretty sure this is the guy from Rhapsody. Just Avantasia is all about cameos, so even this guy got to do a cameo.
Wow, that guy gets around.
But this album, I think, musically is probably a little tighter than part one was. It's the same long, boring, cookie cutter, dime a dozen BS fantasy stories that every 10th grade nerd wrote in the back of their notebook during, gym class or whatever. So yeah, total throwaway concept lyrics. There's a dwarf, there's a dragon, there's a sword. They all walk into a bar. Somebody says, "That's not a piano." Fuck the story. It's garbage. But the songs are good. The music is good. I have no patience for these really cheaply done, fantasy D&D stories. Good fantasy D&D stories, absolutely, I'm on board. But this kind of just drivel is kind of sad. But musically, it's good. That's really the last album, though, he would do that felt like a more traditional German power metal album. After this, Tobias starts to go a lot more Hollywood. And the new Avantasia single dropped today for those who you don't have to admit to it in the chat. But if you're into the band, there's a new single up that's apparently
new album's
really good.
called There Be Dragons, I believe it's called, or something like that.
Yeah,
it's definitely given later Dragonlance rather than like Forgotten Realms or Ravenloft, I feel.
It's the not so hot Dragonlance. That's a good way to put it.
It's not even Margaret Weiss and Tracy Hickman era. It's like some other dude.
No, definitely not Weiss and Hickman. No, that's nah. Yeah, it's some of the knockoffs who were like their interns or something. Let's see. Two others that deserve a quick shout out. My Dying Bride did a good live album, Voice of the Wretched. There's nothing particularly fancy or special about it. I just think it's a really good track list. They sound really good, and it's recorded really well. So you get a good dose of Big Three Doom vibes there.
Big news of the day with the dude from Swallow the Sun is now the new singer of My Dying Bride.
Oh, I missed that. And let's see. We started with a demo tonight, so I want to end with a demo tonight. It's buried in this collection. This is Necros Christos, also from Germany. And 2002 saw them release their first demo, Necromantic Doom. And just again, a sign that death metal bands were still happening, and you had some new ones starting out. There were some bands that were going to get some attention a few years after 2002. Bands like Necros Christos, just a few years away from getting that debut album to drop. I always liked this band. I thought they had, sort of a cool gimmick going on. And even some of the demo stuff is pretty cool. This collection has like all the early demos and stuff on it. So kind of a nice way to check out their early stuff.
Great band.
Yeah, good band.
Yeah. They were, again, while you went through kind of that little bit of that, slight lull in death metal, they were one of the bands that I did definitely always keep tabs on. Okay, now I'm done with my 2002 stack. I have nothing left. So Marty, bring this on home, sir.
All righty. Well, we talked about this in the album club, and it was a pick of mine because I love this stupid album that I shouldn't like, but at 6s and 7s by Serenia. It's basically straight up gothic metal, very catchy, a lot of alternating clean dude singing and lady singing back and forth. I don't know. It's just very catchy. A lot of piano, a lot of fake piano synth on here. You could tell that when let me double check this hypothesis. There's got to be someone in one of those not wearing a t-shirt but having like this gothic fishnet thing over the top. No, not this time. Maybe next time. But that's the type of metal that you usually get.
Like that type of Tristania record I showed, I think last time I was on.
Yeah. I don't know. Go watch our episode on the album club on this. I enjoy it. We've got Symphony X, The Odyssey. It came out. Michael Romeo, of course, is a shred master, but the thing that sets him apart is he doesn't lose sight of melody and strong hooks. Great. Great U.S. power metal band. These guys are fantastic.
Yeah. And there's a good power metal band that stays out of the cheese zone completely. They never stray in that direction.
Yeah, 100%. And lastly, I grabbed this, but I couldn't. Last time I listened, this is probably when it came out. But Oceanic by ISIS. I was into these guys for a hot minute. Saw them a bunch of times back in the day. They're a fantastic band live. It's like this is probably not right to say this, but like the East Coast Neurosis in style.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, they're not as, I don't think they're as good or as important as Neurosis were, but
Everybody I know
don't know.
used to call him Neurisis back in the day.
that is great. That is great. But this is a great band. I like This Is Mosquito Control. I like Celestial. I don't know. This was good. It has no. I haven't spun it. I have so moved on from this style. I'm not saying that in a snooty way. I'm just saying there was a moment in the sun where I was really into this stuff. And then when I kind of moved on from it, I just haven't really looked back to it. I don't ever feel nostalgic for it either, which is odd. But 2002, and we could have went probably a lot longer and a lot more stuff.
Oh yeah, there's stuff we met. Someone just mentioned, like we didn't mention the debut Reverend Bizarre album, and someone should have mentioned that.
I've been listening to that a ton lately too.
Which one is that? Let me look it up.
In the Rectory of the Bizarre Reverend.
I don't know if I have that one. I need to see the cover.
I used to have that one. It's again, I'm not the biggest Reverend fan, so I
don't have that one.
Somebody else would bring it up.
Oh wait, I do have that
Revy
one. I
Biz.
recently got it. I don't know, but yeah, and always fun to do these, and it's great. It's almost like a homecoming here. Patrick and Jason on the same stream together. What is happening?
Lovely box set. That
is awesome.
2002. This was dirt. I hate to encourage people to go on the Antichrist website, Amazon.com, but which I give a lot of money to. This was like $30. I don't know why it was so cheap, but it was like 30 or 35 free shipping with Prime. Like, look at it's like 4 LPs on all the demo stuff, which is all really well recorded.
Awesome.
Look at how shiny. It's great.
You said you got that for Prime. You don't have to pay shipping. Okay.
Yeah.
Right on. Well, great. And Jason, I think you've earned a few subscribers tonight. So it might inspire you to take off the bed sheet and dust off the collection and start.
I mean, I could show you my pile of shit I have over here, but it's kind of a bummer.
You just need to do it in live stream format. You've done that before. And
I think that's about because the thing is I just don't have time. That's my thing. It's like if I do it, I have like this little window of time, and I got to hammer it in there.
Yeah. Right on.
But I have more than enough stuff. Eventually, maybe things are starting to level out. My son's 5 now, so he's got a little bit.
He can entertain himself at times.
Yeah. Well, he'll just I'll tell you guys. He'll just sit here and play that fucking Tony box thing while I hear the goddamn Lion King song over and over again.
That may come up missing one day. Oh no, it's gone. Yeah. Patrick, what's going on with you? Obviously, you've got some stuff, some big life things going on, but Ground Zero Salem lives on, of course.
Oh yeah. I'm gonna take it. I mean, I've got a lot of stuff to do this month. I got to pack up all my shit to move back to Massachusetts. But I'm gonna have some time for some videos. I at least want to do like a couple. I don't have a ton of stuff that I bought in 2024 that came out this year, but I don't know. There's I could easily do a top 10 or something. So I'll probably do that and then whatever, maybe just kind of a collection update at least or something. I have that thing where it's like I'm not one to just bang out a video. I have to premeditate it and overthink it and bite my fingernails down to the quick and then spend 8 hours editing because I'm a freaking crazy person, make some weird intro, you know how I roll. So it's always like, here's a half an hour worth of content that I put like a full work day into because I'm
right.
Weird. Yeah. I'm a weirdo,
So. And if I come back, if you guys want to follow me, I am the exact opposite. You will see me fuck up. You'll see a sheet in the background. Maybe my kid will walk in. The record will skip. Whatever. Who gives a fuck?
Yeah, Pat. Just so folks know, we did put a link to your distro in the show notes. Okay. With you moving, are you kind of just freezing stuff for the moment, or?
I'm going to, but I mean, what I'm going to be doing probably this weekend, in the midst of doing everything else, is I have a bunch of stuff because I have kind of pruned my collection a little bit. I brought in a couple of huge boxes to decent sized record boxes to Sorry State and sold some stuff. I sold some stuff to Nice Price as well, some CDs, but I wanted to sell some put at least like 30 to 50, maybe even more items up on my distro of like CDs, LPs. I have a bunch of stuff put aside. So I'm going to
I check periodically and are bummed when they're not updated. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, I have put a bunch of like tapes up recently.
Oh, I'll check. It's been a couple weeks since I've looked. So
they're like ones that are like, you know, stuff that people would really want and everything. So a lot of them have sold. I sold like a Dark Throne tape for Blaze in the Northern Sky, like an original press today. Actually, I got to ship that out tomorrow. So it's going to be some stuff like that, but some stuff that's a little bit more common. But yeah, I'm going to do an update for the distro, and then I'm probably going to put it on hold for a while. I don't know. We're going to be in an apartment when we're looking to buy a house and all that kind of stuff. So it's probably I'm going to be working a lot. I'm going to be training at 2 different jobs, you know, so it's going to be a little bit before I get that up and running again. But I do want to like purge a bunch of stuff through the distro while I'm packing and everything. So there's going to be some, and I'm going to do a sale. I'm going to do some crazy like 30 or 40% sale to like get stuff cleared out, because moving my own records is going to be a big enough pain in the ass as it is.
Oh my God.
Yep. But so yeah, there you go, folks. Check out, keep an eye on Pat's thing for the next few days. Buy some cool stuff so he does not have to move it back north with him. Give the man some money.
This is from the distro. If you are curious about Tragedy Vengeance,
that record,
I have 2 copies.
That thing's fucking awesome. Buy that record. Someone buy it the minute it pops up.
Alan, what about you? Let's talk metal. Tuesday is the day. What's going on this coming Tuesday? Do you have it all sorted?
I do. Let's see. I think, if I remember right, we're doing the Savage Grace discography, some U.S. power metal, power speed metal from the 80s. So we'll work through their stuff.
Nice.
Sketchiest covers ever.
Yep. There's going to be some black tape put over some boobies.
I'm a naughty cop.
Yep.
So yeah,
I'm an evil cop.
We'll be working through all of those. And just one more reminder to folks as we wrap up here, if you would like to win a free copy of Deserts of Hex #2, this is the zine put out by Hunter Ginn over at Radical Research. I've got 2 copies. I will give them away next week. All you have to do to qualify to win a copy is leave a comment in the comments down below on this video and just tell us what your favorite album of 2002 was. All right. Next week, we'll pick 2 random winners for that. I'll ship these anywhere that's, U.S. Post is delivering to. I will probably send them out like after Christmas just to give them a better chance of getting there in a reasonable amount of time. Between now and Christmas, the U.S. postal system is pretty clogged up. But free. I don't know how many copies of this they have left. You can also purchase it over on the Radical Research website. I think they still have copies, but I am not certain about that. They usually don't press too many. Great read, really good in-depth stuff. So yeah, just leave us a comment and you can win a copy if you're lucky next week.
Awesome. Well, with that, we will be finished. And everybody in the chat, you're the best chat on the YouTubes. I say that all the time, and it's true. It's true.
Good.
Great turnout tonight as always. Thank you so much. And please go click on these fine gentlemen's pages. Go check them out, and we'll be back next week, of course, with a bunch of new stuff. Chemist record on the album Club Hunted, I believe. The Hunt or Hunted. I don't know.
You sounded very, very excited to check that one out when it was announced.
I ended up kind of liking it, so I feel feel like I've
actually just
over the
ordered
hump.
Yep. I've heard a little bit of their stuff, and I don't mind it.
The first song on it's bad. Little spoiler alert. The first, I'm like, wow, this is wallpaper vanilla. But then after that, track 2 is instantly better. So, yeah. But Friday, I don't know. Friday, don't we have a Friday? No, nothing for Friday yet.
Next Friday, no, we're still trying to nail down whether we've got some people. We got to nail the dates down. Who wants which date?
We have to nail some stuff. That's been my thing. Procrastination is the mother of invention. Anyway, cheers, everybody. We will see you all next time. Have a great one. Have a great weekend.
Ho, ho, ho.